WrestleMania 39 is just over 8 days away. It's an exciting time of the year, and of course, it feels like a good excuse to do a full WrestleMania podcast. So we can talk about match types, we can talk about matches to be added to the card, winners, losers. Let's go all in and get dirty in the questions today, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, as well, while we're at it, why not just talk about WWE in general? We can even talk about AEW. We could even talk about Punk, the Instagram AEW rant that he did last night based off of comments from Dave Meltzer. So there's lots to discuss today, but before I get into anything, I need to get a very special guest on today. He's been involved on collaborations on the channel before, but it's his first time on the Q&A on a YouTube platform. It is Wrestling with the Truth on your favorite audio platforms like iTunes and Spotify and stuff like that. It's Wrestling with the War podcast. It comes all the way from Canada as well. So I like to call him the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. It is the one, the only Mr. BC Hunter in the house. BC, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Steve. I gotta hire you to be my promo guy for the beginning of all our episodes. That was awesome.
Cheers, man. I appreciate it indeed there. And how is your Friday treating you?
I'm doing good. It's we're heading into the weekend. It's 7:00 here in Nova Scotia. So we're 4 hours behind you, I think, right now. So yeah, it's all good. Now, I want to preface this. I wore the hat in honor of the fact that this is a UK podcast, but I know you guys take the footy pretty serious over there, and so I hope I don't offend anyone with this hat. It was my one trip to London. It was my souvenir back. So.
Fair play to you. No, to be fair, I mean, that will offend perhaps some. It's not my favourite team, but I'd tell you what, I'm not going to be offended by it by any stretch of the imagination. Liverpool, obviously, is a very popular UK soccer team. It's good to see you bring some of the culture and the flavour here today. Unfortunately, I've disappointed in return. That's the probably disappointing part of the start of the podcast. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you finding WrestleMania, the build? Obviously, the show being 8 days away. Is there an excitement level at this point for you? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm excited for the card. I think there's a lot of great matches that are set up right now. There's some amazing storylines that are going on around the bloodline that we're gonna see some culmination with that, I think, at this card. Just for Gunther, Drew, and Sheamus alone, that's worth the price of admission. I think that's gonna be, as Sheamus has been saying, a banger.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people seem to be a little disappointed with the build up right now, but I think honestly, for the last 3 years, we've been building to this with this whole bloodline angle. That is your build to Mania. Everything is kind of tying in with it, and it's coming to a point right now. So, to me, it's fine. And just for what they've announced for these matches, I'm pretty excited to see a bunch of them.
Joe, I completely agree with you as well, though. Like you say, maybe in certain places, maybe certain angles aren't the hottest, but when you look at your top storyline, the bloodline, I mean, that's not just, it's filtrating throughout the shows, throughout the card
Sure.
as well. Like you say, you've got your Cody and Roman's your main event. We know that the idea of the Usos against Sami and KO, that's felt like main event worthy. And of course, it
Mhm.
has done for Sami in Elimination Chamber as well. We've had main event Jay at the start of this. So there has been this element of the bloodline, like say, trickling through almost the whole of the card in certain ways or another. Will it play on one night? Will it play on 2 nights? Like you said, we know we're going to get some great matches along the likes of Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew, you mentioned earlier. Seth versus Logan. Look, Logan's controversial, but you know what?
Yeah.
We know it's going to be a great match. There's some great stuff to look forward to when it comes to this WrestleMania. And I've got to say, ladies and gentlemen, get your questions in nice and early. Quickly just saying hello to those who are vocal in the chat so far. I know we've got more people here, but we've got the vocal ones so far. Ghost Spider 2003 saying, "What's up, Steve?" Thank you, Ghost Spider, for checking out, and I hope you are keeping well. We've got Jonesy in the house as well. Says good evening to Steve, and BC says shame about the hat. Up the Red Devils, of course. A Manchester United fan. We knew at some point there would be a rival club coming in, but it's good to see that we've got some good sportsmanship going as well. Jonesy says though, at WrestleMania, what would you do to finally move forward the Bray Wyatt storyline and get people talking again? That's Jonesy's first question here for us today regarding WrestleMania. I think the first question I have to ask to you, BC, is will Bray Wyatt even make it to WrestleMania?
I don't think he's going to, Steve. To be quite honest, I think Triple H has finally looked at it and went, you know what? I think we've gone a little bit too far off the ledge with this. And we got to pull it back. And we got to regroup on this. It reminds me of an amazing TV show that you watch, one of the like a Lost or a Dexter or something like that,
Yeah.
where everybody's talking about it, everybody's anticipating what's going to be happening, and all of a sudden they just seem to go a little bit off the rails, and you kind of lose their way and they lose their path, and it's like, oh wow, okay, so this is this is not what I was originally tuning in for, and I think that's what we've got a bit with Bray right now. I, I don't even know if the injury's legit or not. I just think it's they're cool. It's a cool down, and I think they got to regroup. They just got to get back to Swamp Man Bray. Like I mean, like back like when he was teaming with Matt Hardy and stuff like that. That character, because just let's just bring it down. Enough with the puppets. Enough with the howdy. Enough enough with him with a stable, with just some crazy guys in the stable. That's fine. That's good. He can be a cult leader. That's what you need to be. And I think there's just a little bit too much magic going on with that right at the moment.
Absolutely, because obviously when you look back, I mean, I know that you're quite an old school fan, just like myself. There, when you look at like the some of the famous Hocus Pocus kind of characters back throughout the years, like let's go the Papa Shangos for a start, is a name that comes to mind instantly. Like we've kind of gone far forward from that, but you go through like,
Yep.
obviously the Undertaker, obviously that did work. We went through that
Mhm.
agenda with Kane and Mankind's, but do those sort of characters connect the same in 2023? I mean, you would think with a big horror genre out there, obviously
Yeah.
things like Marvel, DC, that sort of stuff, the superhero world, that's massive as well with a big worldwide audience. You'd think a character like this would connect with the audience, but is that then a criticism of the writing, or is that the criticism when you look, say, perhaps with the character portrayal? Where is the direction going wrong for this?
Yeah, and so and again, we're outsiders. We're not sure completely who's involved with this. I've hear on some sites that it's Bray doing a lot of the work around this. I hear other people are in behind the scenes as far as the booking and writing of this stuff. But again, I just think they've kind of lost the plot, if you know what I mean. Like
Mm.
of course, at the beginning, him coming back is a major thing, and you want to throw all these different things at it, and I think he's kind of lost in the whole. Okay, do I go back to what I was? Do I go back to the Fiend? Do I go or to all these different things? And instead of just moving forward with something, but like you said, like these characters, like a Papa Shango or a an Undertaker. I don't know if you listen to Ted the Hillbilly Heel, but I mean he did a great breakdown a couple of weeks ago about the comparison to Kevin Sullivan and his Army of Darkness in Florida, not the whole crap that was in WCW with the Dungeon of Doom, but just his Army of Darkness and how he was kind of a quasi cult leader, although he never said he was. And that's what Bray was when he had Luke Harper and Eric Rowan and just that he just needs to be a crazy cult leader who's got all these people like an Eric Young or bring Rowan back or get somebody else, get Cross in there or somebody like that. Take away the magic for a bit. We can always add it back in, like Undertaker did when he did the Ministry of Darkness and stuff like that. But take it away for a little while. Let's just get back to we know he can go in the ring. We know he can go on the mic. Let's just get back to that.
Yeah, do you know what? I think you make a lot of sensible points with that. And like you mentioned, just the Undertaker there with the ministry. Obviously, he picked up the injury. He was away off TV for a while. But when
Yeah,
he returned, he was the American Badass for about 2 or 3 years, stripped away the complete what was the Undertaker gimmick we knew for so long, did the Dead Man, American Badass, on the biker gimmick for about 2 or 3 years. When the time felt right, when it felt like, well, let's go back then. Like you said, we can bring back the magic later
sure.
on. WrestleMania 20, he brought it back. And just to say for everyone as well, anyone wants to do some retro WrestleMania conversation as well, feel free to do so. If the memory is good enough, I'll give my best takes on it. But absolutely, Jonesy, fantastic question to kick us off there. Ghost Spider 2003 says, after the Usos lose the tag team championships, I can see Jay could help Cody Rhodes to beat Roman Reigns. Now, obviously, it seems to be a hot opinion, the idea that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will become your next unified tag team champions at WrestleMania. Firstly, do you share that same sentiment?
Uh, you know what? I am completely puzzled on what's going to happen with this, which I absolutely love. Like, I know people are saying this is so predictable. Cody won. Cody's going to go to Mania. He's going to win the title. I'm not so sure. I am really not so sure. Roman might keep it. You might have that feud with Jay. Maybe Sammy gets his chance afterwards, or maybe Cody wins it later on. I don't know. Is Jay going to turn? We don't know. Or is he back in line with the blood? There's so many intriguing elements to this. That's what you want in a storyline. I cannot believe that they've been able to maintain this for close to 3 years and they haven't really had cracks in the story. There's never a point where the people are like, oh, this is stupid or anything like complete opposite of what's going on with Bray right now, honestly.
Mm.
and you just keep adding layer on layer on layer. And you mentioned it earlier, like, yeah, there's a lot of things between these two matches that go on with the bloodline connection, but you also have another connection with, like, even with Seth and Logan Paul, because you got Seth who could jump out of Mania with a big win over Logan Paul, and he can then challenge Cody for their rubber match. Well, it's not really rubber; he's lost all the matches, but still, he's got that going on. Logan Paul faced Roman in an awesome match in Saudi Arabia, and you could always have something going on there. Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows what's going to happen with this? And I love it. I love when I'm sitting there going, well, there's 4 different ways that this could go, and I'm interested by all of them. It's been a
And
long time. It's been a long time since I've said that.
Yeah, do you know what? I feel the same as well. Like you say, it feels like we could have a complete reset button after WrestleMania. Should it go where Cody,
Mhm.
if Jay's involved and breaks away from the bloodline, for example, we have these ideas of fresh storylines. But obviously, we can have things where they stay the same. But obviously, like you said, other twists can make new storylines as well. Everyone thinks they've got the answers. But was it Roddy Piper that said, "Just when you think you got the answers, that's when they change the questions"? You know,
That's right.
it's that kind of vibe, isn't it? And there's that excitement that comes with WrestleMania. Should the Usos lose those tag team titles? Obviously, you said many different scenarios. Not so sure, but could you see Jey Uso perhaps helping Cody in the main event, or is that something you would say I'd prefer Cody if he's going to win it on his own, and if Jey was to turn, he should do it say the following night on Raw?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think if you're gonna crown Cody, crown him clean. That's the biggest thing. You gotta do that. You don't want anything over top of it. Now, yes, could I see that happening? Sure, I could see easily night one. Maybe you have. Well, I guess they're not going to main event, although I think it should main event. To be honest with you, but have them lose. Then the beginning of night two, you have basically your typical bloodline segment in back where Roman's just bawling them out for losing. You see, Jay's been amazing with the facial, so you can see the frustration just boiling. And maybe, yeah, you do have Jay interfere. That could be a possibility. But honestly, I wouldn't want to see that. If you're going to crown Cody, now if you're going to have Cody lose, then maybe something comes into play with Jay doing that. But you got to crown that next champion clean. There's too much. There's been too much put into Roman's build not to have the person win clean.
I have to agree with that. I mean, obviously, that's an opinion from Ghost Spider. If it does happen, fantastic. Obviously, nailed it down perfectly.
Yep.
But just to quickly just mention Impact Wrestling very quickly, I did the update today on YouTube as an earlier video. Josh Alexander obviously picked up a real bad injury. He's picked up a tricep injury. He's been champion for well over a year in Impact Wrestling, and he's had to relinquish the championship. When you look at that sort of idea, you want to crown your next star. When you've built the
Yep.
stock in for so long in somebody, for them to not hold that championship and give it to the next person. Now it's a vacant championship. It's not the same way to do it. And that could be the same thing if Cody doesn't win it clean, because you're not building the proper style the proper way. You then, I suppose, you lead to the rematch if you want to do the rematch with Cody
Yep.
and Roman, but at the same time, you don't really get the same star power into Cody that you could have done had he done it on his own. But it's a fascinating question. It's fascinating takes as well from everybody. We've got quite a few comments coming in, so let's move on to the next one. Jonesy asking, how would Vince McMahon have booked the Great Muta if he went to WWE in his prime instead of WCW? I guess one thing for sure, we would not have got an NWO Muta. How would Vince McMahon have done it, BC?
Uh, I think Vince McMahon would have ruined it, to be quite honest. He would have put him in some comical Japanese sidekick thing or something with Barry Horowitz, like they did to Hakushi. But
Oh, yes.
uh, yeah, I think he would have screwed it up, and Muda just would have said, "Screw this, I'm going." I mean, I 1989 Great Muta might be one of my most favorite times in wrestling. 89 in the NWA, between the Steamboat Flair trilogy, the Terry Funk matches with Flair, Muta Sting, and then Muta just what he did. Like, he was just a phenomenon. I wouldn't have wanted to see him go. But answering Jonesy's question, I don't think he would have booked him well. I think he would have wasted him. I don't think he would have wanted to put him over. He wouldn't want to be the top guy. You still would have had Hogan and Warrior and those guys on top. If we're talking the '89 run, that's what I consider his prime. But maybe he's talking later on. But I think it just would have been a waste of a phenomenal talent, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, I mean, we look at his prime, like you say. I mean, at 90 and 89 was a great time with Muta. Obviously, going into the Hall of Fame as well this year. It's a shame we have not seen him in a WWE match. I'd have loved to see a cameo in the Rumble this year. I think that would have been a great spot to have had him just having a WWE appearance. We had it with Jushin Thunder Liger, of course, for an NXT show back in 2015 against Tyler Breeze. But yeah, it's a shame it never happened. But I mean, the only other time you could have said that would have been a time which wasn't his prime, but when he was with Vampiro, the bad sort of WCW booking in 2000. But then if you come to WWE at that time or WWF, you probably would have ended up in Kaientai. So I mean, it probably was a no-win situation, whatever happened, Jonesy, unfortunately. So probably best with what he did. Nubico in the house, hope you're doing well, Nu. Thank you for checking us out. And we've got Mike at Tannerhab's Mike as well. He says, how important is the closing match for night 1 that could set the tempo for night 2? That's why I feel the Usos versus KO and Sami should close night 1. Usos lose and Roman loses it on night 2. And that's a take from Mike. What's your opinion then of this closing match for night 1? Should it be the tag title match? We've never had a tag title match main event at WrestleMania. We've had a tag match do it before. The first one, Hogan, of course, doing it with Mr. T back in the day. But obviously, we've got Rhea Ripley, a Royal Rumble winner, on the other side. Triple H, it feels might like that heritage of the Royal Rumble winner main eventing a WrestleMania. Charlotte Flair, that feud, they're trying to make it work. They're kind of, at the moment, some it's hitting with, some it's missing with, maybe more it's missing with. What's your stance on this? How should the night close for night 1, and how important is that to go in for night 2?
I think Mike is spot on, 100%. I love the way he worded that. The tempo, setting the tempo for night 2. So if they're going with that plan for the Usos to lose to Sami and KO, then yes, that's how you should close it, because now you have, number one, you're end of the night with an amazing feel-good moment. Sami gets his time to shine. And plus, you go into night 2 with the bloodline cracking because of they lost that title. Now, if you're going to screw over Sami and KO and they're not winning titles, then no, that shouldn't be the main event that night, because that's a negative to have that. Maybe you put it on at the first match of night 2. So then you're like, oh God, okay, so they screwed those guys. Now they're going to screw Cody over, aren't they? Right? I guess I get it. They want to showcase the ladies, and they want to have them main event. They want to have Rhea have a moment, but Rhea's not a face. This isn't like it's not the same as crowning a Cody or a baby face. Rhea's a heel, and Charlotte's supposedly the face right now, though Charlotte is so not a face. She's just not. A Flair is never a good guy. But to me, a main event, you want to crown somebody. You want to say, this is your next hero, instead of you're putting a negative spin on it. So that's the reason why. The only other match, I would be perfectly fine with the IC title main eventing as well. And I think that'd be so cool for the IC title to main event a WrestleMania night. But Mike, you great call on that. I think that's a perfect booking.
I mean, to be fair, I this moment where I stand, I do agree. Although at the same time, I did speak to NX. Steve was a guest on here earlier this week. He spoke about the idea of night 2 of the Usos losing in the opening match for Roman to stir and shake and get nervous all throughout the night. But imagine if he had 24 hours to feel that as well. Does he come up with a cunning plan, or does he feel even worse? There are so many different elements to this story that make it so exciting. Like you said at the start here, been culminating for 3 years, this, and it could be the right call to put it as the main event for night 1. We'll have to wait and see what they will do. Jonesy asked how many turns there'll be at WrestleMania this year. Do you see any heel turns or any face turns coming?
That's a good question. I like that. A true turn. I think you might see a true turn in the IC title match. Maybe either Drew or Sheamus turns on one or the other. You might have an unintended turn, and they might not go with it, but I could see Gunther being turned by the fans, because, again, they're going to just kill it, I think, in that match. And it's just going to be a respect situation where he gets the standing O or something like that. It's hard to turn Imperium. Other than that, we already have Asuka turning. Which, back to your point about Muta, I heard a rumor that somebody said, I don't know if it's a rumor, but somebody was mentioning they should have Muta go out with Asuka, which would be really cool if he seconded her for that match. But you might have a double turn with Rhea and Charlotte, although I'd hate to see what's the name of the group? I just went blank.
Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. It's hard to turn them babyface as a whole, but you could have Rhea and Charlotte do a double turn, the old Austin Brett situation. Other than that, I mean, yeah, I think the rest is. So let's say we possibly could have 2 to 3, maybe.
That'll be a lot in a couple of nights of WrestleMania as well. I think Jonesy as well, knowing he's a big fan of turns as well, that definitely I think would be enough for his palate for a couple of days, I'm sure. But
What
at the
about
same
you?
time, for me, I agree with you. But for me, I look at Drew McIntyre, so probably the one I think needs it the most.
He
When you
does,
look at the
yeah.
IC title, I think he's got to a stage where I just think of since Clash of the Castle, the ending obviously didn't get the job done. He's not really done anything significant since, and I think a heel turn just freshened him up. Obviously, there's only so much karaoke with Tyson Fury you can do after a show. So yeah, heel turn for me. Getting back to the Scottish Sucker Path for me would be a good way to go.
Yep.
Oscar, like you said, is en route, and I love the great Muta call, by the way, purely because they're both using the mist. I just think that's a sensible move. Where even if you think the idea that Oscar's going to do it, what if the Muta did it just for
I know,
the
yeah.
kicks? It's a WrestleMania moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
In some format. So yeah, I mean, those are the most likely. I don't see like a Cody or Roman situation. I mean, you mentioned there obviously they could do it with the Rhea and Charlotte match, but I mean, Dominic Mysterio tonight's probably going to be challenging Ray through threatening his family. So I mean, that's probably that's the most likely scenario tonight. It doesn't scream very much good babyface, does it, Dominic Mysterio? So I don't see Judgment Day turning in any way. And obviously, we might get a demon, which could be quite popular on WrestleMania weekend. But again, I see Finn Balor remaining the same there. But it's going to be interesting. Jones, and anyone in the chat, let us know who you think might be turning at WrestleMania weekend as well.
I've got one, Steve. I got one. Yeah, sorry, just on Jonesy because he does like the turns. I mean, I could easily see, or you could have in that IC match, Sheamus does finally win it because they want to get that title off of Gunther anyway, so he can go after Cody because we're going to assume Cody's winning the title, right? So you got Gunther to go against him, but you also turn Drew after the match. The old hug and the arm raise, and then there's a clothesline, and then a kick to the face, and you got a hot feud right there. And then you're also setting up another heel for Cody with Drew after he finishes with Sheamus, right? So I could easily see Drew.
It's a great idea. Drew as well with Drew. You think about it and say that Drew McIntyre, just like Cody, they were in WWE. They had to go away, rebuild themselves, come back, both be world champions. The story kind of works itself because Drew didn't get it in front of fans. Don't got that popularity going now.
Yeah.
Cody's got it. There's so much jealousy factor to work into that. So I like the layers of that storyline there. Another question from Jones says, what would be the reaction if WWE just randomly put Seth Rollins versus Will Ospreay on Raw like AEW did with Kenny Omega versus Vikingo? I'm not attempting the full name, unfortunately. I'm not quite there yet. But I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of people would be saying the same stuff. Where's the build? I mean, Twitter is the place for the build on that one. But obviously for a huge audience and stuff, people like a build, like a story. But I suppose if the match is as good as what Omega and Vikingo was on Dynamite, I think maybe people would not be complaining either. What would you see as the reaction?
Well, I mean, and I'll try to be gentle with AEW this evening because I know there's a lot of people that enjoy AEW. It's just I have a tough time with it, but I do think they get a free pass a lot of time on some of the same decisions that are being made. That if it was WWE that did it, they crucified for that, right? So if they threw the debut of Will Ospreay on a random Raw in the I don't know, 10 o'clock hour or something like that, people would be losing their minds on social media about that. Like, how could you do that? But it seems like they got a free pass in this one because, they had an amazing match together, but still, that's giving away Goldberg Hogan on Nitro instead of going and doing it at Starrcade, right? I know they're not the equivalent of Goldberg Hogan, but that was a dumb decision by Eric Bischoff at that time because he was trying to get ratings as opposed to getting pay-per-view buys. So, I think WWE would get crucified for that, which they should. I mean, somebody like an Ospreay should be either like I think they did perfectly with Cody showing up at Mania as Seth's opponent, or the next night after. That's your surprise walkout at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, absolutely, and that could be the case scenario. But I mean, like for me, like I totally agree with your Hogan and Goldberg analogy. And you think of like back in the day with that sort of stuff. I mean, it's kind of like do you go for fast food or do you go like to a 3-course dinner at a restaurant? What do you want? Do you want the layers or do you want the quick result now? And I think that's kind of what's going on with matches like that. Obviously, yeah, it's awesome as a spectacle to watch, but obviously, like you say, could there have been more of a lay? Could there have been more of a story? Could this have been a match that could have been at Double or Nothing had it been done correctly? correctly.
Yeah.
You know, that's what people will ask there. So obviously, one day I hope we do get to see Seth Rollins and Will Ospreay. And if Raw is the only place, Jonesy, I will take it. But Richard is in the house, and Richard sometimes likes to get in the trolls, but sometimes he doesn't. Let's see what he's got to say to us today. It's a spoiler, so take it with a pinch of salt. NXT stand and delivers. Zoe Stark will win the NXT Women's Championship. That's a possibility. At WrestleMania, during Edge and Finn Balor's match, Johnny Gargano could join the Judgment Day to turn on Edge. I mean, I don't see it, but I mean, I will talk about Johnny Gargano. Does he need something? So far, he's not connecting the same.
Yeah, well, I agree. He's not. Again, I know this will sound bad, but he got on the big boy roster, and yeah, NXT was a perfect fit for him. That it's all about the match quality and stuff like that. But when you're jumping onto the big stage and you've got these giants there, and right now WWE is back to being the land of the giants. Right now, there is some big meaty men on that show. There's some big meaty women on that show, let alone big meaty men. But there's it really stands out. Whereas opposed to where he can be in NXT and having these amazing feuds and matches with Ciampa and Adam Cole and people like that, it doesn't stand out as much. And honestly, his personality is not big enough to overcome that. Daniel Bryan could overcome the size thing because he had that personality, he had the fan support and things like that. Rey Mysterio overcomes something like that because he's just amazing and he's just a spectacle and things like that. But like even we use the example of Dom. Look at how he's overcome things. As a white bread baby face, nothing. People weren't into it, but he's now Prison Dom. Still the same wrestling skills, but he's got a character, he's got a story, and that makes a difference. But there's just nothing right now for Johnny. I think NXT is the place, and that's not an insult. That's not an insult. I'd rather see him be a top star there with amazing storylines and putting on all these matches than just getting wasted away on the main roster. That just to say that he's up on Raw or up on SmackDown. I like the idea of there's now starting to bring people back and forth to NXT and up to the roster and having these different feuds and different matches. I mean, this Grayson Waller feud is going to be amazing for him.
Absolutely. And Grayson Waller's a great talker as well there. And I mean, Johnny, for me, either DIY or the way. I think that's the only way we could probably help it right now. But the only thing, obviously, we have to be patient with Johnny as well. But it's only been 6 months, hasn't it? But at the same time, I agree with you. It's better him to flourish where he's going to flourish rather than getting lost on the main roster. And like you say, you don't infect it almost in 2 minutes. That's something you don't want to see going forward. So Jonesy goes on more with Bray Wyatt. He says WWE are just so lazy with all the Bray stuff together since the return. They have no idea how to explain any of it. It's like watching a movie with a great start with no middle or end. I've seen quite a lot of those movies over the years, BC, but do you reckon this Bray story is probably one of them?
Sorry, what was that last part?
Is this Bray story, a Bray Wyatt story, one of them, a movie with a great start with no middle or end?
Totally. It's like they wrote 2/3 of the script and they forgot to put the ending in, whereas you got to start with the ending and work your way to the ending. You got to know what direction you're going to, and it just doesn't feel like they have that right now. It's just it's meandering, if I want to use a word, and it's almost like they're just treading water until we think of something really good or something happens where somebody catches fire and you need to put them together. But totally agree with you, Jonesy. It's just a waste. And like I say, I think it's a good move just to pull them off for now and let's regroup, and let's see where we can go with this.
Absolutely, indeed. I agree with that 100% there. Big shout out as well to Daz Reynolds in the house. Hope you're doing well, Daz. Thank you for joining us. AEW question, BC. So I don't know if you've seen Dynamite this week, but any news on who attacked the Bucks on Dynamite? I have my theory on it. I think it was near enough revealed at the end of the show who it would be. Do you see this? Do you have any takes on it?
Yeah, it just seems like they're kind of going with almost like an NWO angle with the BCC. It feels like. Is that where you're going with it? As far as who you think it is?
Partly, yeah. If I can indulge everybody for about 3 minutes, at the most. Obviously, look there with the beatdown. It was seemed to be giveaway that it was the Blackpool Combat Club that did the attack. It was proved at the end of the show as well. Hangman Page got on there to go with the Bucks to the hospital. Came back later in the show. Don kind of stopped Omega from going. Obviously, had the match there, wanting to be the big single star. Wanted the Kenny Omega Revolve that we got. We got the big intro with the North Carolina. We got all that stuff coming out there, and obviously Kenny was back. Great match with Vikingo, absolutely. But what does it lead to going forward? When Hangman came back to stop and make the save with the BCC, Callis just got out the ring. Callis as well faded that Hangman attacked him to cause friction between Omega and Hangman. Probably there'll be friction with Omega and the Bucks. Why did you not come to look out for us? I think the idea is for Callis to get Omega away. We then can get BCC at Double or Nothing against the Young Bucks and against Hangman Adam Page, because Page and Moxley still got their thing going on.
Yeah.
At the same time, Callis is trying to recruit Kosuke Takeshita as well. He said he can make him a big star. So if we can get the idea that Takeshita won't join his side, and then we get a match built, then Omega, you need to take this guy out because he's just clearly showing no respect to joining us. We can get that match at Double or Nothing. Put that on first as well. Actually have Callis then cost Kenny Omega the match. Joins with Takeshita. It was a ruse all along. And then we get to later in the night. Let's make that 6-man, by the way, Anarchy in the Arena, something like that. No rules involved, like they do usually every year. Get Takeshita and Callis to come out and actually help the BCC win. And then it's revealed on Dynamite, the whole thing was Callis all along behind it. Because we don't have... William Regal's not there anymore. We don't need the Blackpool Combat Club. It's irrelevant. How about the Callis Combat Club? Callis has been extreme. Exactly. Callis has been extreme. He's been in ECW back in the day, albeit as a commentator and as a TV personality for the network. But still, he's been there. He survived it. He knows what it's like to do with blood and stuff like that. So that's my theory of where I think it will go. But it's still very, very early days at this point.
That's a great theory. That's some very good storyline. That's some story building, Steve. I wish Tony would kind of do a little bit of that stuff with it to get some intrigue. And didn't Callis at some point in his career go by like the hidden hand or something like that, where he was like kind of the manipulator behind the scenes with might have been in ECW or something. I can't remember, but and of course he had the Truth Commission as well, that classic group. But and then and again, I don't follow New Japan, so I'm not sure about this situation. But is Kota Ibushi floating out there? And could he come in and help Kenny or something like that?
That would be awesome. Obviously, if you want to be able to say blood and guts afterwards, you've got 4 there, and then that would make the 5. I can't imagine Callis getting into the cage, but I mean, obviously, it would be the 5th one you could throw in there. But at the same time, maybe a Bryan Danielson could come back. Obviously, he's tapped out on stuff like that. Maybe he goes back to his heel roots. Who knows? But Ibushi, for me, seems a lock for AEW, in my opinion. He's a free agent. Could end up anywhere, even WWE. But I would expect him to go to AEW personally.
And you've got the Takeshita Ibushi kind of thing there where they could lock up. And the other thing I'm thinking of, if I'm remembering correctly, didn't we have finally a little bit of a respect thing with Omega and Will Ospreay after they finally had that match? I know they were just going at it on social media, but have they kind of mended fences, I think?
I don't know if it's mended fences. Obviously, it looked like there was desperation of reaching out. Ospreay wasn't happy he lost that championship. I still expect a rematch at Forbidden Door this year. I think Ospreay will get his win back. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. I mean, that would be a strange old world if Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay were on the same team in AEW at some point. Because I mean, we've seen it with the biggest rival. I mean, Austin McMahon, WrestleMania 17, shook the hands at the end there. I mean, it's out there as I can go. You know, who's to say that this stuff wouldn't happen in pro wrestling one day?
You need something like that. That's how you shake things up. You do the unthinkable. Hogan turning, like you said, Austin McMahon. You need something like that. Even the Punk return. I know we'll get into Punk later on with that stuff, but that, or and you think you've got like an Omega, an Ospreay, an Ibushi together. Maybe Danielson joins them. I mean, you just have like, okay, we're just going to toss together the greatest wrestlers in the world as a team. And let's have them battle the BCC, who's now become this vicious club that is being manipulated by Callis, right? So now you got your 4-on-4 because you got Takeshita and Yuta and Claudio and Moxley against those 4. I mean, think about that. There's your blood and guts right there.
It's for me. I'm seeing money. I don't know. It was if TK decides to print it. I think that's the big question at this point. But let us know what you think of the chat. Do you like those ideas or not? Let us know if that's something you'd be on board to seeing. But back to WWE and back to WrestleMania. And of course, imagine Austin Theory beating John Cena at WrestleMania Night 1, then issues a United States Open Challenge at Night 2, and Bron Breakker answers Austin Theory, and then Bron Breakker wins. Certainly, that would be a big WrestleMania moment would be a big shock, a big debut for Bron Breakker as well. Is it something you'd like to see happen?
Honestly, no, and I'll say why. Like, I like the idea of I think Austin Theory has to beat Cena. I know he'll get the
Yeah.
rub either way, but Austin Theory is going to be a major, major star for that company, and he's going to be their world champion at some point. And this is the feather in the hat that you need. It's like Randy Orton back in the day beating these legends. He needs that as a bragging point as well. But I don't obviously, if he beats Cena and then loses the title to Breaker, he's now freed up. Immediately, he's going after Cody, and we're not going to have Cody lose the title that quickly to an Austin Theory. So I want something to keep Austin Theory away from Cody for now. So him keeping the U.S. title is fine. Yeah, I don't know about Breaker. I love Braun Breaker. I like his thing, but he was this phenom when he first started. He's a Steiner. I love the Steiners and that kind of thing, but he's kind of plateaued a little bit. I think right now, of the two that are going at it at Stand Deliver, Carmelo's the more interesting character right now, and he's a guy I'd like to see come up and make a big splash, something like that. But I feel like, yeah, Breaker needs to come up as a heel or something like that. He needs to be number one, put with somebody like Heyman. It'd be perfect. Put him with Heyman and let Heyman do the talking, and Heyman's got his next big thing, right? You know, that's what you need, is something like that where he just becomes a heel. The fans can't get over him for sucking or this or that. It's I feel bad for him because the guy is phenomenal, but you know, that audience down NXT, they either love you or hate you, and as soon as the next best thing comes, and they hate you and they love the next guy. So he's I think him debuting as a heel, like kind of like Brock did when he first debuted with Heyman and came in and just cleared house, and that might be a way to go. But yeah, I'd like to see Theory keep that title, especially if he gets that win over Mr. Cena.
I mean, for me, yeah, with a big win like that, you know, Theory definitely gets himself to another level. So for me
Mm.
as well, I'd like a bit of distance. I've got no problem Bron Breakker being the one to beat Theory. I'd like a bit of distance between it, but it certainly would be a big shocking moment if it was to happen, Ghost Spider. And I do like the creativity and a bit of fantasy booking to come into our chat here from time to time. It certainly is a lot of fun to discuss. And Noob and Co asking here, do we think Bianca Belair will have a long title reign post WrestleMania, or do we think Asuka will win the Raw Women's Championship? I think Bianca, sorry, Noob, I think Bianca's title reign has been very stale and bland, is what he has said there. I mean, for me personally, I think Bianca's reign has been fine. I personally think, and I'm going to quote Owen Hart here, it's time for a change.
Yeah, I agree. Not that there's anything against Bianca. Bianca has pulled something amazing out of her hat. She's one of the few babyface champions that's managed to stay has managed not to have the crowd turn on her yet. So, but she should, to me, she should turn heel. I mean, her whole gimmick is a heel gimmick. I'm the greatest. I'm this. I'm the EST. I'm this. That's a heel gimmick. That should be something. And if you have, say, a Rhea Ripley do a turn or something like that, as we talked about earlier, then you have Bianca do a turn. Then you're setting up this massive match between Bianca and Rhea. So you need to take the strap off of Bianca. And I like Asuka. I think a heel Asuka with the title would be great as well. But yeah, like, Bianca's starting to get into that range of, if she keeps it too much longer, the fans will turn on her. And you don't want her heel turn to be because of that. You want it to be shocking.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to do it because there's a reason to do it, rather than feeling we've got to do this because fans just won't do this anymore. The merch sales go down and everything like that. And yeah, I'm completely with you. I think it's time for something fresh. I think that's the thing. We look at a lot of long-term champions in WWE. To change some of those championships up would freshen the game up. But speaking of the game, Mike here says, rumor is that Triple H wants to make Raw after WrestleMania 39 a must-see. It's been several years since Raw after WrestleMania has been a must-see. What do you see Triple H doing? BC, I'm going to leave this one to you first.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry.
Of course he's going to want to make it must see. It's the Raw after Mania. You're going to have your highest television audience that you're going to have of the year. Who would make it must see at this point, I guess, is the thing. And this isn't a put down on anybody in AEW. But I'm trying to think who would come over from there. I mean, FTR coming over for the internet fans, the IWC. would blow their minds. But is the casual viewer going to see that and just be absolutely dumbstruck and they're going to come switch the channel? I don't know about that. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see FTR back. So I'd love to see them and the Usos locked up in a feud, like a real feud, not that craziness that they had when they got the itching powder and all that stuff. I want to see an actual classic match. I know people are talking about Jay White, although I think he's going to AEW. It makes sense for him to go to AEW. That's a much better fit for him, but I don't know. Maybe, but again, is that going to grab your casual viewer? No, it's not. I think the only guy, as much as I don't want to see it, would be CM Punk if he was to show up that night. That's what's going to get it a must see Raw at that point. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank because it seems like there's not this big star out there that we're waiting to see. There again, some of the people that they could pull in would pop the internet crowd, but it's not going to bring another million people to watch Raw. I guess is to me. I still think that as much as people say I don't watch Raw, yet they know everything that happened on Raw or that kind of stuff. I think the same 800 to a million people that are watching AEW on a Wednesday night are watching all the WWE product as well. I think we're down to about 2.5 million people that actually watch wrestling right now. So who are they going to bring in? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question that's been proposed. Obviously, the biggest names out there, like you said, would it move a needle? Jay White would be certainly one that would be great for the hardcore fan base, and I think
Mm.
they're in attendance, so they can help build and make someone feel like a star. So if Jay White
Mhm.
debuted and let's say attacked whoever, like let's say it was Cody, for example, like you're coming and making a big splash, the crowd would react the way you want them to. I don't know, but let's say it's Corpus Christi. I don't know. It's probably not going to have the same reaction, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like if they
Yeah.
do such a thing. So at the same time, for me, I look and say there are certain crowds of the year that work. Obviously, a Canadian crowd. We know a
Mhm.
Chicago crowd is always hot. I like to
Mhm.
think the UK crowd does pretty well.
UK crowd is awesome. They're awesome. I'd love to see them book something like the UK the night after me. It's a terrible travel situation, but that crowd would be on fire for a post Mania Raw.
We would love it one if we can have the menu as well. We'd be even more happy. But
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think we're a way off of it if we ever will get it. But at the same time, I think that is the hardcore of everyone coming from around the world in one arena. That can help build something up. But I imagine we'll get some returns. Randy Orton's a name that's been
Mhm.
thrown around a bit. That would definitely move a needle a little bit. Maybe Riddle coming back with him could be quite interesting. Who
Mhm.
knows? I mean, I'm not as warm on Riddle these days. I don't know. I've lost interest a bit. But
Maybe a heel Riddle if
it
you had
could
a
be
heel turn. Yeah.
it would be something different, wouldn't it? So I mean,
Mhm.
I imagine there'll be NXT call-ups as well. They'll do stuff to freshen the product. I'm sure of that, Mike. That's one thing for sure. Jonesy says there was a pre-tape interview on the March 20th Raw where somebody used the term wrestling. Had to redo the interview. Vince McMahon is easing his way back in. How long before he starts screaming down headsets? Hopefully, not at all. What's your feeling of using the term wrestling and having to be re-recorded?
Do we know that for a fact?
We don't know for a fact.
Yeah.
I believe it's. I don't know it for a fact anyway. If
Yeah.
Jonesy has got the source, then he can feel free to throw it in there for us.
Mhm. I I don't know. I hear so much about this. Oh, Vince McMahon's doing this. It's funny. Anything bad that shows up on WWE television, oh, Vince McMahon's back. Anything that good that shows up on WWE television, it's got to be Triple H in control. So which is it? Is he back or is
Mm,
Triple H control? You can't have the best of both worlds, right? It's one or the
mm,
other. I don't know. I don't think Vince McMahon ever went away, to be quite honest. He did on paper as far as that whole situation, but that man is a maniacal, uh, control freak. He's not going to give that up. You know that he was on the phone all day long talking to Triple H and Stephanie and Nick Khan, and of course he's got Bruce in there, who's basically is Vince's right hand in more
mm.
ways than one, probably. But you know, but I don't think he ever left the product. It's just that people thought he did, and they're like thinking that Triple H is pulling the strings and just doing this amazing stuff. But it's a good way for them to get away with a refresh of the product by saying Vince is gone. But I don't know. I just I if he's back, he's back. It's whatever. Um, I just I don't know. It's hard to explain it, but I just don't. I don't think I don't think he's going to ruin the product. I just think you're going to see some stuff that you're not going to like, and you're going to think it's Vince. You're going to see some stuff that you like, and you're going to think it's Hunter. Which is it? I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we'd still watch if Vince is there. That's the thing.
Sure.
We're not going anywhere, are we? I hope not. But like you said, there's some good points there for us of where he could still be involved. It's just a case of if he is involved or not. Let's hope that it's on the not. But it's in WrestleMania
Well,
season. He's more likely to be involved now than any other
yeah.
time of year if he's going to be.
Well, and let me say this for all the people that crap on Vince, and I'm not trying to defend Vince. I'm just saying this whole bloodline angle happened under him. It didn't
Mm,
happen under Triple H, and this thing has just been on fire. The guy, for as much bad and stupid stuff that he does, where he seems to be punishing people, the guy is still a genius when it comes to the whole product itself. And he's going to come up with something where if he sees something that is uh, in his alley, in his comfort zone, he's going to be able to make that tweaks better, right? For that,
mm.
so it's yeah. I don't think you're going to see just an absolute all of a sudden the product just goes completely downhill. There's too much momentum going on right now.
There is a lot of good things happening right
Yeah.
now, and it'll be interesting to see where it'll lead to after WrestleMania, whoever is steering the ship. And Richard is back once again with another spoiler. Take it with a pinch of salt. Bianca Belair retains, and then Rhea Ripley, after losing to Charlotte at WrestleMania, challenges Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. Certainly will be a possibility, obviously, because Rhea Ripley still a Raw superstar. Should she lose at WrestleMania, not get the revenge on Charlotte, Bianca could be someone she could go for. So that's not completely out of the realms of a possibility there, Richard. But we'll have to wait and see as it happens. If I had to just put you quickly on the spot, BC, at the moment, Rhea or Charlotte, who takes it?
I think Rhea. Yeah.
I think Rhea as well at the moment. It's hard to change my mind, but SmackDown will be the last stop that could probably do it this evening if it's going to. Ghost Spider says if WWE booked Cameron Grimes right, then he could become the next Shawn Michaels or Daniel Bryan. Those are big shoes to fill. Cameron Grimes, for me, he was really organically over with the crowd when they did stuff with him correctly in NXT, particularly his rich gimmick. Got a way better than I thought it would. The $1 Million Championship as well. Could Cameron Grimes be a big star on the main roster if given the right treatment? I guess it's an obvious answer, really, isn't it?
I think he could. It's all about the right treatment, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be the next Shawn Michaels or something like that. Like as far as the in ring, I think on the main roster he has to continue with that rich guy gimmick and have something around him that plays into that, and then
Yeah.
he comes like a like literally like a Ted DiBiase, where it was all about the gimmick and he was a good hand in the ring, but you weren't worried about Ted DiBiase's wrestling skill. It was about the whole big picture of things. I also worry sometimes about the false positives that happen with the NXT crowd. People that seem like they're over may not necessarily be over. It's just that NXT crowd, my God, they're just it's almost robotic at times. Like it feels like they've got the applause button going for certain things, and it just I feel like it gives a false positive on some people.
Absolutely. There's been many examples of that throughout the years, but Cameron Grimes
Yeah,
to me is a good hand. I could see him having a good future in WWE if he's booked right. Like you said, the rich sort of morph into Ted DiBiase. If Corbin continues to be going back into bum ass Corbin to get,
yeah,
Cameron Grimes just throwing money, like treating Corbin like a modern day Virgil, I think would be
yeah,
quite hilarious to watch. But
yeah.
maybe I'm dreaming at this point if something like that could be a possibility. But
Or embrace stable, like as
yeah.
going back to his old Trevor Lee roots and stuff like is it Trevor? Yeah, Trevor Lee.
Yeah,
Is it,
Trevor Lee
yeah,
back in the
yeah,
day,
going
yeah.
back to his roots there, and kind of like when Daniel Bryan was in uh Wyatt stable. Maybe that's something like you get like a Cameron Grimes, you get an Eric Young or somebody like that. It gets kind of interesting at that point. You got people that are both great on the mic and great in the ring, but can also play that crazy character too.
Absolutely. I think it's a great shout, and that's a, be a fun idea to see, certainly. Daz says, what night do we see Seth versus Logan Paul? I believe it's already been confirmed on Logan Paul's birthday, which would be night one of WrestleMania. I looked on Wikipedia earlier. That is the one match that seems to be locked in for night one, and the one match that's locked in for night two is Cody versus Roman. I'm
Yep.
guessing if not tonight on SmackDown, we'll certainly learn by Raw for sure what all the matches will be, which will make the prediction shows for everybody across Wrestling YouTube a hell of a lot easier to do.
Hmm.
But we'll have to wait and see. Go Spider says Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, SummerSlam 2023. I spoke about this heavily on my channel over the last sort of couple of weeks anyway, so I'm not going to say so much on it. I think it's going to happen. BC, do you see this coming?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the route they go.
I think it could be definitely a route they go. Obviously, if Jey was to turn on Roman after WrestleMania, being the leader of the new bloodline, for example, that
Yes.
definitely be a full circle moment.
Well, and very good point there, Steve. And that's something that nobody's really been talking about. We're all thinking that Jay's going to turn because he's just going to have enough of Roman. But remember, he's got his brother Jimmy. They just proved with the Sami thing that blood is thicker than water as far as you don't break that brother bond. So, and Jimmy was even starting to do some of the facials when Roman was getting on him about Jay not showing up and not being there. So I don't know. And then maybe they convinced Solo to come with them. I mean, Cody alluded to it in his in ring talking about, if Roman doesn't have the title, he doesn't have the Usos, he doesn't have Solo, he doesn't have Paul Heyman anymore. So do you get a new? Well, let's think about it. The night after WrestleMania in 1998. You got a new DX with a new leader. You got Triple H. Who knows how to book an angle like that? Triple H, right? So now you have a new bloodline. And I feel like, well, they're talking about Roman's going to be taking some time off anyways after Mania. I mean, he deserves it. I mean, after this run. And he's going to come back as a babyface. They're going to cheer him. I mean, they're going to. Because it's like Jim Ross always says, how do we miss you if you don't go away? Well, he's going to be gone away, and he's going to come back. Just look at like Cena. People are just throwing babies in the air because Cena's back, even though they John Cena sucked was the whole chant when he was there. And I think the same thing. So maybe I love what you're talking about with SummerSlam with the new bloodline, and then it's Roman's the face, and maybe you get Seth involved, and maybe you got the Shield kind of situation going again.
Absolutely, indeed. I completely agree. And just to let everybody know that no babies were harmed in the answer of BC just there, just in case anyone was wondering. But
it's an old school Jim Cornette term.
God, I love it indeed. Classic Cornette there for you there. C Nation Dog, hope you're doing well. We are looking to catch up with the chat, by the way, so apologies to anyone that's on delay here, but we will catch up with you all, and all questions will get answered. But C Nation is so mad right now, since Josh Alexander was having the longest reigning Impact World Championship run, and it's ended by injury. It is a shame. Discussed it earlier on in the video here. It's not the way you like to see someone lose a championship, and obviously he was on an incredible run.
Yep. Good old Canadian boy and I love Josh Alexander. I think he's got tons of potential to be big time, probably more so in an AEW than WWE, to be quite honest. I think he'd be amazing there.
Absolutely. He's already been name dropped on Dynamite by Brandy Rhodes back in the day as well there. So you never know, maybe one day. C Nation also says, I really hope Cody Rhodes finishes his story, but Roman Reigns going to 1,000 days would be cool. So glad this match is unpredictable. And like you said there is an unpredictability factor here when it comes to this. And we'll have to wait and see how it will lead to when it comes to WrestleMania. There's good arguments both sides, so let's see what comes along there. Jen, thank you, Jen, for dropping in. Hope you do. It says, hi, guys. Nice hat. Not necessarily a WrestleMania question per se. That's fine. But how do you feel about Roman Reigns' exit from the top might happen? It's been forever. Do you think it could happen at WrestleMania? Great question from Jen. BC, I'm going to pass it over to you first.
Spoiler alert. Jen would be my wife, who
there we go.
Just appeared with me on our latest YouTube video, Wrestling with the Wife, which has been a smash hit for us with over 600 views right now. Amazing. But yeah, thank you, Jen. I appreciate that question. I think we kind of just talked about it though. What you brought up about the new bloodline, I love that. I think that's the way they go with that, Steve, is Jay becomes the new leader. Main event Jay, right? He's the new leader. Roman goes away, heals up. People forget too, this is a man that dealt with leukemia, right? I mean, he needs some time to heal. And then probably shoot a movie or something like that. And then he comes back, the conquering hero, babyface. And I love the idea of Seth and Roman tagging, maybe the main event of SummerSlam is Seth and Roman against Jay and Jimmy.
I kind of get SummerSlam 1991 vibes kicking into me there with the Warrior and Hogan against Slaughter and his partners at the time. Yeah, that's
Roman and Cody against Jay and Jimmy.
Well, I mean, there you go. I mean, wrestling has more than one royal family after all, doesn't
Yes,
it?
yeah.
So, there's all things that can happen with that. Loving that, Jen. Thank you. And loving where that took us there. Thank you for stopping by. C Nation saying that Drew McIntyre should turn heel. We obviously discussed a bit of that earlier on. He also goes on to say Demon Finn Balor versus Brood Edge in Hell in a Cell is going to be awesome. I'd like a Brood Edge involved in this.
Yes. Yeah, agree.
Alex as well here with us now. Thank you, Alex, for joining in. The chat says, I see Kairi Sane heading to AEW, facing Emi Sakura and Hikaru Shida, and Riho definitely tag teaming against Shida and Saraya and Tony Storm. Interesting if Kairi Sane was to go. It's the first I've seen of it here. But yeah, I mean, Kairi Sane is a heck of a talent. Unfortunately, didn't quite work for in WWE. Do you think she'd have a better luck in AEW?
Yes, I do. I mean, it seems like a better fit for her than in WWE. Although I really enjoyed her tag team with Asuka. I thought that was some of the best TV going on. Was the Kabuki Warriors, right?
It was, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they were hilarious. To be honest, I enjoyed their more so than their in ring stuff. I enjoyed their backstage segments. I thought they were great. But yeah, I think definitely AEW would be a better landing spot for her.
Absolutely. I've been fascinated to see Kairi Sane back on our TV sets more often. I don't get to see enough of her these days. So I would be fully on board with that idea. Ghost Spider also thinks that Drew McIntyre should turn heel at WrestleMania or after WrestleMania. Feels that Drew is a very popular choice with everybody on that heel turn that we talked about earlier. C Nation says Sheamus should win the IC title. Gunther does not have to take the pin. Drew McIntyre will take the pin and then turn heel. It's almost mapped out perfectly on how that could go down, because Gunther then could just go straight to the top, to King of the
Yes.
Ring, to SummerSlam, to face
Yes.
Cody, whatever they want to do with him.
Yep. Completely agree. I that's the only reason Drew's been put in that match. Somebody's got to eat the pin, and they don't want Gunther to do that.
No, absolutely not. And it's going to be a great match as well. I'm so looking
Oh
forward to it.
God, it's going to be amazing.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Alex also says Naomi has trademarked her new name as Trinity Star. She's also confirmed she's not with WWE anymore. Great miss for WWE. Do you think not having Naomi there?
Uh, is it a miss? If they were using Naomi right, although a lot of times I think it's overblown about how they weren't using her right, because she did end up winning championships. She did have some angles, but if they were using her right, it would be a great miss. But I don't think they were using her to her potential.
Do you think
Is
she
the
should have been a part of the bloodline?
um No, honestly, well, I think as a side character, like it's Jimmy's wife, right? So maybe as a side character, but I don't necessarily think a full blood. I think you got to be blood to be in the bloodline. So I mean,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, no, fair play to you. I wouldn't have minded seeing it back in the day, but I mean, obviously, like you say, she was not at the top of the card when it happened. I think she had a
yeah,
part to play. She had potential to have been booked like a top star, but just it
she did.
sadly never happened. And I think that's the thing. But Joe says, "Are we surprised this year at Mania that we don't have any new match stipulations debuting?" As much as I love a Nigerian drum match, I don't remember too many more in recent memory, Jones. It feels like it's a common theme. We don't seem to have many new match stipulations anymore. We sometimes get some of our favourites returning, Hell in a Cell this year, for example. But what are your feelings, BC?
I think we need to have another "What do you say" match like we had at WrestleMania 11.
Yes. Apron Bump did it so articulately as well in their worst
Yes,
WrestleMania video. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyone that's not seen the worst WrestleMania according to Wrestling YouTube,
yeah,
BC to my side here, Apron Bump, a host of other content creators. So much fun of a video. If you get a spare 25 minutes, go and check it out. It's definitely worth your time to see what the worst WrestleMania of all time is. If you enjoyed the video, by the way, then please consider hitting that like button. It does help this channel massively, and also it lets other people know that we're here, and that's
that's
pretty
right.
much what end of the day we'd like to do. We'd like to know more people, and we'd like to talk wrestling with as many people as possible. We'd also like to answer your questions, and that doesn't mean we won't get to them quicker. So if new people come in, we'll still answer them pretty sharpish. But C Nation says Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre were tag team champions in 2010. They were indeed. I remember watching that a few years ago. That's quite a throwback there, C Nation, for a reminder. Always with the facts, and that's what we love. Mercedes Moné apparently has signed a full extension with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I wonder how long that would be, but of course, as the champion, it doesn't surprise me she's not going anywhere yet.
Mhm. Interesting that she took the championship, signs an extension. And now we're talking about Kairi Sane possibly coming to AEW.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff indeed. I wonder if Mercedes money will be at a forbidden door. Just an interesting thought there, but we'll have to
Yeah.
wait and see. Could happen. Jonesy says CM Punk 2 with Don Callis and the Blackpool Combat Club. I mean, that could be something that would be interesting. CM Punk's name's finally come up in the stream nearly an hour in, and let's talk about it quickly. So, obviously, a report come out from Dave Meltzer. Literally was saying that CM Punk had agreed to the squash match with John Moxley. I think this is where this basically started. And then CM Punk went basically on a complete rant on his Instagram story, calling Dave Meltzer a liar. I believe Jericho was seen as a liar and a stooge. And he was talking about the John Moxley match, how, basically he said he wasn't fit and good to go. And, John Moxley refused to lose to him. This was an idea that was presented. Didn't think much of it, this Rocky 3 idea. But of course, Tony Khan wanted it, so he did it. But he was not going to put his health at risk anymore in pro wrestling. So it shows there's a dig on both sides here. Doesn't seem to be happy with any company. Does this kind of just mean that CM Punk just may be away from AEW even longer? Or is this kind of, I do get this question in my head that you put a story up on Instagram and you delete it immediately. Now, the length of that story on Instagram, for me, you cannot read that in the 10 seconds that it's there. So whoever sees it goes, CM Punk's written saying, I need to screenshot that. It's clear that the message is going to get out. He knew what he was doing with getting that out. Is that something where he wants people talking because he's got genuine toxic feeling towards AEW, or is he working us?
I am continuously leaning toward this entire thing being a work, to be quite honest. Maybe it's CM Punk is the person that jumped the Young Bucks and put them in the ambulance. But honestly, if it's not a work, and here's your heat segment right now, Steve, because I am not a CM Punk fan. I've never been a CM Punk fan. I think he's poison to wherever he goes. I think the whole how he was looked as a hero for the pipe bomb thing. I've said it a million times on our podcast. If you think he went on air in WWE with the control freak that is Vince McMahon, who apparently now he's such a control freak that from his senior citizens home, he's now on the phone controlling what's happening on WWE Raw and SmackDown and Mania. But he was going to let CM Punk get on that microphone and say all that stuff that he did during the pipe bomb and just let it go out over the air when you can bleep a curse in the 7-second delay. That was a work, if you ask me too. He might have said a couple of things that were a bit more offside than they were expecting, but Vince McMahon knew what was going on. He wasn't going to let him out there with just a live mic and just decimate your wrestling federation. I say you reap what you sow when you get CM Punk, to be quite honest. And if it's not a work, then it's look at what he's done to AEW. Look at what he's done. Like he's basically he's really hurt them, if that's the case. If it is a work, well, power to them. They're working this, but I don't know. I don't see the reward to this being a work when you have a guy that can't wrestle for a year. The whole point of a work is to get a payoff eventually, very quickly for that. Yeah, I don't know. As far as joining the Blackpool Combat Club, I don't see that happening. I know we kind of jumped off the question there, but the whole CM Punk thing, I don't know. This guy is poison to me. I think if he is a tough guy and he is so vocal and going to put that stuff out there on Instagram, why would you take it down? If you're the guy that's the pipe bomb king and you're the one that's putting this out there, why would you take it down? You shouldn't be scared of anything that's going to come from the ramifications from it. So I do find it interesting how all of a sudden AEW fans have, well, we've got a couple of contradictions here. Number one, they're giving Mr. Khan a pass for forcing wrestlers to work while injured. And number two, they're now turning on Mr. Punk as well when he was the chosen one, the hero, when he came back and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see that. But again, sometimes there's a bit of hypocrisy with that stuff. But yeah, honestly, I am leaning towards this being an entire work. But I think you've wasted that. And the worst part about this, once again, he's overshadowing MJF. Like this, MJF's moments have been overshadowed by the whole CM Punk thing this whole time. Sorry for the long rant.
I loved it. You hit a lot of the points perfectly. You've almost saved me having to add to it. That's how much I agree with a lot of what you said there. I mean, if it's a work, I mean, the thing is, the only thing I can see where they could get their money investment would be Punk versus Omega at some point, and that would be if you don't put a Takeshita in that point, for example. If you put Punk versus Omega, that could main event a show. And obviously, the idea of Chicago All Out, they're going to go to a much bigger arena for the next All Out, apparently, from what I've seen, rather than their traditional home in Chicago, which I believe was the United Center previously. Oh, maybe it's the United Center they're going now. I can't remember which one it
Right.
is. Sorry,
Mhm.
but I mean, if they're going to do that, that would sell that out. I'm sure of it, and that's I suppose where you get that payoff. But like you say there, what is happening if it's not is a massive damage to the company, and it's stuff is coming out that shouldn't be quite
That's right.
bluntly, and obviously. But if you are going to put it out, why is it not staying out? That's also there because there's enough time to put something out, people are going to snap it and people are going to have it. It's there forever. You can't get away with putting something on the internet for more than 5 seconds because it's going to be going around like wildfire, especially if your name is CM Punk. And I'm pretty sure he knows that. But Jonesy, yes, we have gone off slightly of the point.
Yeah.
I don't see it either, but my main reason for not seeing it is because of the fact that of what happened last night. Before this, when I was thinking to Kesha, I was like, well, Punk versus Omega could be a fun match that they could actually put together if they could make it happen. But
Mhm.
this has made me go back into denial that it's going to happen anytime soon, if it's going to happen at all.
And one last thing, Steve, on the whole Punk thing. Nobody is coming out looking good in this situation. Nobody.
No.
Omega doesn't look good. The Bucks don't look good. Tony Khan doesn't look good. Punk doesn't look good in this situation. MJF got hurt by it. Moxley gets hurt by it. Jericho's now getting the stink of this on him. Nobody's looking good. Now, let's take a look back to a situation in 1997 where you had basically the same situation with the whole Montreal screw job. But what did Vince McMahon do? He pivoted immediately and became the biggest heel in professional wrestling. He started just making oodles of money with Stone Cold Steve Austin because of this whole situation. Now, if you had a Tony Khan turning heel, or you had this grandmaster plan to make Omega the biggest heel in the business or something like that, that's a little bit different. But no, right now, nobody looks good in this situation. It's just overshadowing everything.
Absolutely, and I 100% agree with that. I love the throwback that you've used for that as well. There, you've nailed the head on that, hit the nail on head on plenty of occasions during this segment. But shout out to Tino's time, who's with us as well. Says, "What's up, guys? Hope you're doing well, Tino." It's always Tino's time. Anyone else, whatever time of the day it is, it's
It's
Tino's
Tito's time.
time. Exactly. Doesn't even matter what time zone it is. He's everywhere, literally streaming 24 hours a day. He's probably even streaming as we speak. Alex as well says, "I see Cedric Alexander helping Kamala Hayes win over Bron Breakker." Now, quietly, apparently, Cedric has been moved to NXT. We learned earlier this week. I've still not seen that confirmed anywhere, but if that was to happen, again, I think the same thing as what we said earlier. Carmelo should beat Bron clean because of the fact that that makes Carmelo the big star out of it because Bron's held the title for a year. But at the same time, if you want to make a group afterwards and that, fill your boots. I mean, Carmelo Hayes is it will be the next big thing when it comes to NXT. He'll be carrying all the gold. He could have a big group.
Well, again, you go like the whole idea of the whole DX thing. What if you had Carmelo win clean, uh, basically becomes a baby face because of it, and then you have Trick jump him, and then he starts a group like similar to the whole DX thing with a Cedric. Maybe Shelton
Nice.
goes down there, something like that. Hurt
Mm,
Business 3.0, I guess that would be. But I mean, Trick's got star on him too. I mean, the guy's so good in the microphone, and
yeah.
you eventually got to get Carmelo away from that, and then you got a feud built in for the title right away for Carmella.
Absolutely, that would be fascinating. Be
Or
something different.
Carmelo. Sorry, I'm saying Carmella. It's Carmelo.
It's very close, and to be fair,
I
they had the
know.
same catchphrase at one point, which didn't make things any easier either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I completely agree with all that. Make a lot of sense there, indeed. Question for you, BC, from Jonesy: Who would you like to see Liverpool sign in the summer?
Okay. So, fully admitting right now, I am not a soccer or football fan. I should honor the UK side of things. The hat was cool. I saw it at the airport. I picked it up. So I wanted a souvenir from my trip. So, I'm going to say they should sign Messi and Ronaldo. How about that?
There you go. There you go. To be
And
fair,
Pele. Bring Pele back from the test.
There you go. That's Jonesy. I hope that sufficiently helps the answer there for you. And to be
Sorry,
fair,
Jonesy. I'm sorry. I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud. I wore it in your guys' honor. That's all.
to be fair, if someone came in and they asked me a hockey question, I wouldn't know where to begin. So the best I've got is playing the Sega Mega Drive back in the early '90s. So that's about as good as it gets from me. But I'm sure the players will probably fake as well. Mike says, if or when Roman takes a break, the issue 95% of the time is when the heel is gone for a while, he will get the babyface pop. How does Triple H book it if that Roman stays a heel? Roman should never turn face, in Mike's opinion. So, I mean, how do you do it? How would you keep it? I mean, does Roman, I guess, would have to make an impact on coming back on a dastardly chair attack on someone that's your top babyface, perhaps going back after Cody?
Yeah, he'd have to nearly kill Cody or somebody in order to not become a face. But I don't think he needs to stay a heel. This is exactly what they wanted from the get go. They wanted Roman to be a face. They wanted to be the face of the company. I think you roll with it. The problem is a lot of the times with WWE is they did not roll with what the fans wanted, and they went against the grain with it, like the whole Roman not turning heel earlier. So I think you go with it. I think if he comes back and the fans want him back, roll with it, make him the face, and then especially again as we talked about, I'm still salivating over that idea of the new bloodline with Jay as the leader.
Absolutely, indeed. There. Just to say, everyone, I noticed we are. I've just looked now. We're nearly 45 minutes behind the chat. We are going to catch up with you eventually. There's too many great questions. It's sparking too much debate and discussion. So we can only
I talk
apologize.
too much.
No, that's not the case. I talk too much. People have been on this channel long enough to know I talk a lot. So that's kind of where we're at with it. But it's the great questions. So we will catch up
Yeah.
eventually. But C Nation says Austin Theory hasn't earned the right to beat John Cena. Oh, okay. So he's young. So that's the reason he should win. Okay, then Omos should beat Brock Lesnar by that logic.
No.
Should Omos beat Brock?
No. I mean, he could, but no, he doesn't need to. Omos is just a spectacle, and he's not at the level of skill as Austin Theory. I'm sorry. Like Theory, yes, he does deserve to beat Cena because you're putting the guy over, whether he's ready or not right now. That guy is going to be your Cena eventually. God, he looks exactly like the guy. Put some jorts on him and see the comparison with him, right? But yeah, no, you got to put the right thing to do is to put Austin Theory over, and that guy is going to be your guy. He's your Rock. Let's think about that. He's your young Rocky Maivia that's going to eventually blossom into the Rock and be the guy that's going up against whoever you find to be Stone Cold.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that's the thing. Ultimately, Austin Theory is going to be all day your next top guy at some point in WWE, whether he's liked or not at this stage. Like you say, he's got the potential to be a Cena, to be an Orton. Almost, yeah, like you say, he's an attraction at this
Yeah.
point. But again, it would make almost a bigger star name. So, I mean, I do see the logic in it as well. But at the same time, Brock is Brock. And I think they've probably got some big plans for Brock coming out of WrestleMania. We still need to see Brock versus Gunther. It's a match we've not seen either. Ghost Spider says, am I the only one that thinks Trick Williams could be the next Booker T? I haven't seen the Spinneroonie yet, so unfortunately I can't make that comparison myself.
Kind of looks like him a bit though. I got to admit that's not a bad call. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody who's going to be the next Booker T, that's a pretty good career to have.
To be fair, Booker T's done extremely well in his career. So, Trick, I mean, that's a big compliment you give there, Ghost Spider. And I mean, there is a little bit of, they've got the same hairstyle, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? Going on. So, yeah.
Even the body type, like the longer limbs and stuff like that. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Jones says, what BC memories of the Retribution angle and why didn't it work?
Jonesy,
Here
you're
we go.
trolling now, my friend. I've tried to erase the Retribution angle from it. Why didn't it work? They turned it into a joke, to be quite honest. They cowered to pressure of the social media pressure and stuff like that. They had lightning in a bottle for a second with that whole Ali situation. We did a rant on that way long ago in the early stages of our podcast, and when he was going for that character, basically like the I forget what it was, but they were going for that whole idea of the Muslim hate type of thing going on. But I think they could have caught lightning in a bottle with that, kind of like a Muhammad Hassan situation, right back in the day.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I again, they cowered to stuff on that because of the timing of things. But it's WWE, just ride it out. These are the same guys that were ready to burn the American flag during the Sergeant Slaughter angle back during the Gulf War. So I mean, you can ride it out for a bit, but yeah, and then the rest of the group just turned into a joke, and they had the stupid mask, they had this and that. They had potential with that, but and then you got Ali, who just became unmotivated, and now look at him. He's actually starting to play into what they want to do with him, and he's starting to flourish again. So yeah.
I hope Varley works out at some point in WWE because he really is a heck of a talent. Retribution, yeah, Jonesy knows my feelings on that, and I think most of the chat probably do at this point. So it's in the archives, ladies and gents. But Alex says, I feel that CM Punk one day's fake situation was all a work. Everything looks too much organized. I'm pretty sure the final AEW access will be the Bucks, Punk, and Omega, and John Moxley fighting and then hugging. Loving that comparison with the All Access. I'll be tuning in just to see if that's a reality now, Alex. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've discussed, we think the idea it could be a work there, but I mean, if it ends up an All Access show, I mean, obviously, yeah, that'd be pretty fun to see. Will you be watching All Access? I'm guessing not, if you're not such a big fan of the products in general on the AEW side.
Probably
No.
not.
I'll give the Adam Cole one a go for sure because
Yeah.
obviously I'm a big fan of Adam Cole and I'm pleased to see he's back and not fun to see the situation he's gone through over the last 6 to 8 months, but it's good to see him be back in the ring next week. C Nation says Bray Wyatt storyline hurts my head. You're not the only one. Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy are friends one week, then next week Uncle Howdy attacks Bray Wyatt. Yeah, it's been a bit of a mess. I think it's probably the best way to put it. And C Nation also going to say, oh no, Grandpa Callis is back to his old ways. Yeah, Callis, if he's a naughty one like we think he could be, it could be a naughty future for him. Alex says he didn't like how the Hangman coming to help Omega. It just looks too much like Kevin Owens and the Sami Zayn segment. Oh, interesting with that comparison. Obviously, in a
I didn't think
way,
of it that way. I
I
didn't
didn't
actually think
think
of
of
it.
it.
Yeah.
No, but I can see where he's coming from.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. I like that, Alex. Thank you for bringing that into my. It's more something I just want to think about rather than discuss about. But yeah, you make a good point. Alex says, "I'm not going to respect Omega until Kosuke Takeshita. It's a match I want to see. They've done it before, but to do it with a higher stakes, I think would be quite fun to see. Certainly would be quite cool. It feels like I am slowly catching up with this chat somewhere, but we're now seeing Kosuke Takeshita and Tanahashi against Omega and Jay White for the Forbidden Door Dream match. I mean, that could be quite fun if they were to put that together, I'm sure. Jonesy with another question for us now says, what do you guys see Randy Orton doing on his return at WrestleMania? I personally love to see him cost Cody. I'd like to see him actually attack Cody the night after WrestleMania. Maybe he can actually congratulate Cody on the night, but then the night after is when the attack happens. How would you like to see it go down?
Yeah, night after. No, I don't think I'd even have Randy at WrestleMania. I would just keep him as a surprise and then have him do the turn on Cody afterwards. And that's a hot feud right there.
I think so, because you've got the build of legacy as well. The old group there mentioned it was Solo Sikoa just this past week on Raw. So, I mean, it's a good time to bring it back up, isn't it?
Yeah.
C Nation says, I feel bad for Hangman Adam Page. Kenny Omega thinks that he attacked Grandpa Callis, and then Grandpa Callis fell down on purpose. Yep, Callis is a naughty one. We've said it before. And Hangman is one that's one for his sorrows sometimes. So it is a shame, isn't it? But yeah, it's going to make a fascinating story as it plays out, hopefully. Fingers crossed AEW could be onto a winner. You can do Takeshita and Tanahashi versus Omega or Ibushi or Jay White. Ospreay is currently injured. That is true. Ospreay has been pulled from the Multiverse United show, which I'm gutted about. So I was really looking forward to him versus Speedball Mike Bayley. Are you a fan of Speedball Mike Bayley?
He's been impressive in Impact. Yeah, he's put on some pretty good matches there. Him and Alexander was fantastic, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was a great match.
Mhm.
Great match. I look forward to hope seeing that match one day at some point though. But
Yeah.
C Nation says a lot of the matches of WrestleMania are unpredictable, which is a good thing. Absolutely.
Yes.
Gonna make a lot of people's prediction videos quite fun, including C Nation's. I know he likes to throw a predictions video out. So I think we're going to be checking out a lot of people's videos this year.
This would be a great year to have a predictor pool going because there's so much stuff that could happen.
There's time. There's still time to do it.
Mhm.
I might have an idea. Is there enough time? I'll think about it. Roman Reigns beating Cody Rhodes, says Alex. See, I mean, that's where it's
Good.
unpredictable. It's
Good.
unpredictable. It could happen. And C Nation actually thinks that Cody will win as well. So there we are, backwards and forwards. I think there's a lot of conversation between the two of them here. Oscar wins by Bianca turning heel and hitting over a chair. Hitting with a chair could be an interesting route. I prefer the mist myself, personally.
Yeah, I mean, especially I still like the idea of Muda coming out with her.
Yeah, I think that would be an awesome way to see it as well. Alex here saying that Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman would be a good fit as well. I can see that.
Yeah, he's always good with a monster. Yeah.
He's good for the monster. C Nation again. I heard WWE are unhappy with NXT crowd reactions. It's a shame if that's the case, but you made reference to it a short time ago about the idea of, sometimes you get the false reactions there. You come up to the main roster, it's not quite the same. So perhaps maybe they need to look at these NXT crowd reactions and see what really is working, what isn't.
Yeah, there's a difference between somebody genuinely getting over, excuse me, or the crowd trying to get themselves over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another shout for Asuka turning heel at WrestleMania. Of course, Bianca was a heel in NXT. You are correct there, Alex, but we haven't seen it on the main roster. So that's a big portion of the audience that hasn't seen a heel Bianca Belair. Ghost Spider says, imagine Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, WWE Championship Hell in a Cell match at SummerSlam. Could go all the way to SummerSlam. And I think that's a good match to see as well. Orton, no stranger to the Hell in a Cell.
Well, yeah, you definitely could go to SummerSlam because, again, you don't want to do the booking logic of all of a sudden immediately you have the Hell in a Cell. That you would want to have a few matches between them. I would actually love to see Randy and Cody trade it back and forth so Randy gets up to that record number.
Yeah, of course. It's
Yeah.
still there. It's up for
It's still
grabs.
there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean,
it'll
and that it would be believable for Orton and them to trade it back and forth because they're very evenly matched, and you could have such a heated storyline as well. And again, you go back to the whole you talk about the legacy, but the whole with the fathers, the Orton relationship with Dusty and stuff like that, right? So there's so much to play into. It's too bad Dusty's not around for this angle. My God, could you imagine if he was helping Cody out with these promos?
Yeah, I mean they're amazing already, but I mean obviously Dusty with
Oh,
just that extra bit of sprinkle dust as well. It's just
oh yeah.
I
Imagine
mean
if Dustin could come in too. I mean, just like it was back in what was that 2014 when they were battling the Shield.
yeah, around that, yeah, 13, 14 mark, yeah, yeah.
There was some amazing promos during that time.
Yeah, but I think it was for Battleground was the particular one.
Something
They
like
had the
that.
big match,
Yeah.
something like
Mhm.
that. Yeah, it was a really good time period there. Absolutely. Great shout there. Alex as well says Rhea Ripley is a heel. Charlotte is a half heel too. Certainly is a half heel because, well, the fans aren't buying the babyface part
Yeah.
of it anyway. So you're definitely on the money with that one. Also, imagine Cody Rhodes losing against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. You can do. I mean, Cody with a lot of questions. Cody having to look in the mirror the next night on Raw or the next day, then to appear on Raw, not accomplishing the goal, certainly would be an interesting storyline. The question is, though, does WWE want to go down that route right now?
Right. And again, going with the theory of a Orton coming back and being right away turning heel and going to a feud, then you need Roman distracted with something. So again, you get into that whole, well, does Roman get distracted with the rest of the bloodline?
Absolutely, absolutely. Jonesy says the source was the Wrestling Observer from the wrestling promo that needed to be redone. So Jonesy, thank you for sourcing for us. We do appreciate it. Also,
What's that guy know?
yeah. Well, CM Punk called him something earlier on. I can't quite remember what it was,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that guy's just a stooge. What are you
t- t-
talking about?
tip of the tongue there, but no, Jonesy, thank you for sourcing it for us. We do appreciate it. It definitely adds a lot more legitimacy to it as well. Ghost Spider says the only NXT call-ups I can see happening after WrestleMania are Braun Breaker and Cameron Grimes. Spoiler alert: my NXT call-up video is releasing tomorrow on this channel. It's actually available there now, waiting, so you can set your notifications to go and see it. BC, do you see these being two call-ups after WrestleMania, and do you see any more?
Yeah, I could see that. I could also see if Carmelo didn't win, he could be a call up as
Mm,
well. Because again, the idea of a hurt business with him involved in it would be very interesting. Imagine having
mm.
him being the leader of the hurt business and having MVP by his side. Maybe you bring a trick up and you have a revamped, stronger hurt business, kind of like The Rock with the Nation when he revamped it and that type of thing. Um, Sorry, Steve, I did not get to watch your video yet on the potential call-ups, but one
It's
I'm
not out yet.
oh, okay.
It's on tomorrow.
I'm disappointed in the fact that I hate that they broke up JC and Gigi. I would have liked to have seen them come up as a tag team and kind of be in that division in on the main roster as well.
I completely agree. I think it would have been great to have seen them together. It's a shame. Jaycee's injured at the moment, isn't she now as
Yeah.
well? So it would have
Mhm.
delayed things a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Toxic Attraction, they had something going. It feels like the
Yes.
Mandy firing completely screwed that up for them. But hopefully they'll find their path.
It was like a panic move, and they should have just kind of rolled with it. Bring them up as a tag team.
Absolutely, indeed, I 100% agree. There would have been quite good to have seen, but the feud has started now, so I suppose we have to see where it will end. But Scott
Yeah.
Retro Wrestling, he's back on YouTube and he's back in the chat with us now. Evening, chaps. A couple of questions for you. Everyone is talking about what will main event WrestleMania, but what do you think would open Mania? For him personally, Hell in a
Ooh.
Cell would be ideal. And do you know what? I think he's got a point for one of those nights. Would be a great way to kick it off. Yeah, what do you see opening the WrestleMania nights if you had to pick two matches right now?
Oh, what would I open it with versus what
Mm,
WWE? I'm sure WWE will open it with the men's tag team 4-way match or something like that. But I hate those throwaway, just throw everybody into a match type of thing. I'd rather see some stakes with that. But I like the idea of the Hell in the Cell opening up because man, you hate to put that before a main event because that's going to wear the crowd out right before the main event. And they're already going to be pretty tired from a long night of wrestling. So that'd be a good way just to put it out there and get it fired up. Or you could have one of the women's titles matches because there's two, right? So
yeah.
again, especially if you're going to have a title change, that's a good way to start off with a hot crowd getting a title change going too.
Absolutely, yeah, that would definitely be a good way to get it going. I've got a feeling that Logan and Seth might open one of the nights, might open the
It
night
could.
one. I
Hmm.
could see that happening. I think you could be right, by the way, Scott Retro. Potentially, that could be, if not, could be the night one, or it could be the night two. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sami and KO and the Usos was an opener at this point if they're not going to main event, like you said, for that hot opening of a night like that would get everybody inside, especially if Sami and
Yeah.
KO won those titles. But we'll see how it would go down. We've done that one already. Also, we've done the best and the worst WrestleManias of all time, but which one do you feel is underrated for Scott Retro Wrestling? It's 22. If you had to pick an underrated WrestleMania that doesn't get enough love.
Geez, that's a tough one. 22 is definitely underrated. Yeah. I don't know if I can call 19 underrated, but it
Mm,
feels like it doesn't get as much love because man, 17 and 18 were so good, but
yeah.
19 was pretty stacked as well. Um, hmm, yeah, and I love 31, but I don't think I call that underrated. I think a lot of people love that one, the San Francisco one.
Yeah.
And for a while, some of them just kind of get lost in the mix. Actually, me and Jay were talking about that on our pod. Like it just feels like the more modern ones, they just kind of blend in as opposed to something that
Mm,
stands out. Um,
mm.
yeah, I'd say if people would agree that it was underrated, I'd say 19 is definitely one. And 22, yeah, that's a good one.
I think 19 could be one. I don't hear enough people talk about it. It's my second favorite Mania, if I had to be honest with you. But I think 21 as well is a bit underrated. I know it's a lot of history
Yeah,
stuff goes on, but
yeah.
that's the last time they're in Hollywood, and not enough people are talking about that. Like a lot of people talk about the commercials from the last one at the minute, but I don't
Hmm.
hear like the first Money in the Bank ladder match. Obviously,
Yeah.
the Cena and Batista
Batista,
becoming the main
Cena, yeah.
guys and that.
Hmm.
So yeah, those could possibly be my picks if we had to. WrestleMania UK in the house. Hope you're doing well, mates. Thank you for checking us out. He says Jey Uso needs a win over Roman Reigns in a non-title match, and he also goes on to say that Jey should win King of the Ring. Well, that's a way to get yourself to main event Jey to that next level. Like that shout.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting angle to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're going to take Roman out and then you lead it then to go and win King of the Ring to build that stock further, to then build that match for, say, a SummerSlam, I think that's definitely a good way to go. And Jay even could be a contender, maybe even, let's say, I don't know if they could do Money in the Bank, but maybe one of the other shows where Cody, that's where Roman makes his return, and that's where you kind of get that bit of a weird of Roman helping Cody scenario. So there's definitely a lot of things that you could do with that. So yeah, I like that, Rex. There's the fascinating stuff there. Done a couple of great videos, by the way, on the Don Callis situation and also on CM Punk today as well. Ghost Spider 2003 says, who should be Cody Rhodes' first opponent if he beats Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? I mean, I think I answered this earlier with Randy Orton. Do you feel the same,
Mhm.
or do you reckon someone else could be there?
Yeah, I think Randy Orton, Seth, obviously, because you have the history with that. The tough part is there's a lot of people that I want to see actually win that championship, so you don't want to see them just be their first feud. I mean, you're going to keep Gunther away from it for a little bit longer because you don't want him taking a loss to Cody at that point. Um, the heel Drew could easily be slotted in for a quick feud, just to get it over. Yeah, I don't wanna see Theory involved. Yeah, I'm saying, like, either a Seth or a returning Randy Orton. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be good. And we spoke about Drew earlier as well. Maybe he could be a good shout at some point down the line. But
Mhm.
Gunther is another one I want, but later, not yet. I
Yes.
mean, you don't want
That
that just yet.
that might be your Mania next year, Gunther and, Cody.
I'd like that a lot. I'm going to ask BC. We're about half an hour away from SmackDown. We have quite a lot of comments to go through. Are you good to go for a bit longer? I don't
Yep,
want to
yep,
interfere with dinner and stuff like that.
yeah, I can go a little bit longer, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's try and see the next half an hour and get all the questions done, and then we get everyone ready in time for SmackDown. Jones says, "Do all the dirt sheets ruin all the surprises for WrestleMania? And do you think WWE should protect the spoilers? Always should protect the spoilers. It's a shame when dirt sheets get hold of the stuff."
Agree. I hate the fact that there's so much stuff that gets ruined. I enjoy the surprise of stuff. I mean, some of it's quite obvious, but you don't need to hear it. That's fine. And I find it always interesting that more comes out about WWE than say AEW. And I'm not necessarily saying that's the dirt sheets favoring it. I wonder if it's actually WWE releasing it on purpose just to test the waters to see fan reaction.
That can be the case there, and it does seem to be. It's always more their biggest company, I guess. Maybe more people are going for it, but like you
Yeah.
say, it comes out, doesn't it? We don't seem to always get it
Mhm.
from AEW sources all the time. We
Yeah.
get a big wow, okay, this person's arrived. So yeah, you make a very good point there. Ghost Spider says, "I heard a rumor Kyrie saying possible to WWE." After WrestleMania from Fightful Select. Now, of course, Triple H is a big fan, so we mentioned her being in AEW could be good. I mean, would you want her back in WWE?
You have a built-in storyline if she was to go against Asuka.
That's true. That's true.
Mhm.
That's true. And if, technically, wasn't she feuding with Bayley and Sasha at the time as well? So she could also go for Bayley if she wanted to as well. A couple of options that would be there. So
Man, they need to do something with Bayley. She's gotten cold pretty quick, and I don't think it's her. I think it's the rest of the group.
yeah, it's something's not working with that at the moment.
Yeah.
That group's not
Mhm.
clicking. They need to do
Yeah.
something with that. It's a shame because that's a WrestleMania match involving Becky Lynch, Trish, and
Yeah.
Lita. No, we're not talking about it. We're an hour and a half in. No one's mentioned it. It just shows it's not seen as a big deal, unfortunately. Has the Rampage card been announced? Do I know? Daz, yes, it has. Unfortunately, not all of it is on the brain, but I know that Ricky Starks is calling out Juice Robinson. Taya Valkyrie is in action against Layla Gray. The Acclaimed are also on that show. Those are the things I can think of. I think actually Powerhouse Hobbs also is taking on Pentagon as well, if my memory serves me correct. But that Rampage show will be tomorrow, not today, just in case you wondered as well. Ghost Spider 2003 says, "Do you guys think Ilya Dragunov will be a future world champion in WWE?"
Whew. When I first read that, I was like, probably not. I think he'd be a bit small for WWE, but then immediately I flashed back to the battles against Gunther, and wouldn't that make a logical opponent to take the belt off Gunther, right?
Mm, absolutely. If he can get over with a mainstream audience like he's done in an NXT audience, then yes.
Yeah.
But if you ask me at the moment, I mean, future could be a very, very long
Future.
time
Yeah.
away.
Very,
But
yeah. Mhm.
yeah, but if you're asking me in the next year or so, then I would say no. So it all depends on where that future goes to. But Jonesy reminded us we had a jackass match at WrestleMania last year. We did indeed, and Mae Young's hand had grown old and got involved in that one, hitting Sami Zayn square in the face.
I know. And you remember how buried Sami Zayn was? His career just went in the toilet.
God, whatever happened to that guy?
Whatever happened to
Uh,
that guy? Yeah,
yeah,
nothing good happened
nothing.
after that.
No,
Mm.
no.
It's almost
Fun
like they
fact.
had a plan with that, get him involved with
Yeah,
a celebrity. It's almost like there was a plan.
yeah. And weird enough, we mentioned Vince McMahon one. It's in Vince's time. It feels like a Vince call. So there we go. There we go. It's
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Ghost Spider says, "Fun fact of WrestleMania, Roman Reigns will be Universal Champion for 942 days. It's so close to the 1,000. It's so close. It's unfortunate if he does drop it. That's felt at the right time as well, though." Mike says, "Did W? Here we go. Got it. Did W drop the ball on Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey by not doing a WrestleMania 35? That was the money program. Charlotte wasn't needed. Now 4 years on, no one cares. I feel like I'm on a little circle. I feel like I still care, but every time I mention it, I feel no one else wants to see it. Where do you stand on Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey?"
Yeah, I wanted to see that. There was a built-in storyline there, and yeah, I'm always more preferring a one-on-one match versus a triple threat or a fatal four-way or whatever the heck you want to put in there.
Absolutely. It was the right move to do. Would you still want to see it now if it could ever be done?
They would have to heat Ronda up again.
Mm,
And I think the only way you do that is you put Mr. Heyman with her and let him do all the talking and just let her just destroy people because her on the mic is just brutal.
absolutely, I agree. It would help a lot. Eric Douglas in the house. Hope you're doing well, Eric. Thank you for checking us out. Of course, C Nation asking, do you think Josh Alexander will become the Impact World Champion again, or do you think he's done with the Impact World title? If I had to predict, I think you make the star in Steve Macklin right now, but there's no reason
Mhm.
why Josh couldn't become a champion further down the line. But you need to cement that next star, which I think is what they were looking to do with Steve Macklin personally.
Oh, I've been so impressed with Macklin. I'm so impressed with him. I'm really enjoying the fact that he's getting this chance and this opportunity. And it's this. See, this is the thing. Like I know everybody, is down on when somebody gets released, but sometimes it's a good thing. This we never would have got this star making with Macklin in WWE or even NXT, but here he is. He's making himself a star in Impact. Possibly could be world champion. And think about how much his stock is going up right now.
Mm,
And
absolutely. When that contract's up, he'll be wanted.
yeah, and to answer the question, yes, I do think Josh Alexander becomes champion again. I think there's a redemption storyline now of coming back from injury.
Absolutely. And to be
Yeah,
fair, him and Macklin for me feels like a program you could really build something off in Impact Wrestling, and
yeah,
it'd be good for their brand. I think if they can get more than a one and done match, now they have the opportunity to build 2 or 3 matches off of this injury. So you get to your Slammiversaries, you're bound for glories. There could be bright times ahead for Impact with if and when Josh returns. When should WWE turn Bianca Belair heel after WrestleMania or later? Says Batman 901. Batman 901, and thank you for joining us, by the way, Batman.
mm. Uh, now I know I just talked about her gimmick being a heel gimmick, and they should look at possibly turn her heel. But the more I think about, they don't necessarily need to turn her heel. They just need to get that title off of her for a little bit before the fans turn on her.
Mm,
And the other thing I just realized, they're doing that reality show with Montez. They're not going to want her to be heel because they want her to be popular so that they get viewers for that reality show. So unless they go both of them heel, I think Ted's got the potential to be a pretty good heel.
He has indeed. For those that watched my stream this a couple of days ago, I've got a feeling Montez is coming. I think the heel turn is coming. I'm going to predict it the night after WrestleMania. We mentioned it earlier on about Raw after Mania, how to strike it when it's hot. A big heel turn on that show. Do the rest on Mania. Do the low key one the night after Mania. If Montez slips up again on a big show and that fatal 4-way tag team match, all of a sudden that showcase match can actually be the showcase of Montez Ford of making the breakout single star starting the following night on Raw.
Or, and I've been saying this a lot, maybe the guy that you make the heel is Dawkins because Dawkins is underrated as heck, and he is really good. He is really good,
Mm.
and I love that he's put so much commitment into getting in shape and working on his move set and all that. Just completely strip away this whole basketball style gimmick for him and make him like a JBL or something like
Yeah.
that, right? Just completely because Montez again, you go back to the move set. Montez has got an exciting move set that fans want to cheer. And he'd
Mm.
have to dull that all down in order to become a heel, right?
I guess so. I mean, we see these high flying moves and stuff like that. Perhaps he would have to tone it down. So, for me to answer that question, Batman, I'd say later. I think we've got a Bianca and Rhea feud to kick in after a WWE draft before we could look at that with Bianca Belair. But Eric says it feels like Grayson Waller could be another Rock. Certainly got the wardrobe for it. I'd give it that far. But for me, Grayson Waller, I see personally. We had saw a comparison the other day with another superstar. I forget who it was off the top of my head that Grayson Waller. He's been linked to a lot of good names, which I think shows he's got a very, very bright future. I think he's got that sort of Miz LA Knight style on the mic, and he knows how to generate people to dislike him, which starts printing you money. I think Grayson Waller will be a big deal one day in WWE.
Yeah, I think Grayson Waller is going to be a Grayson Waller, and that's plenty fine. I think that guy, yeah, you're right. He's got money written on. You just intrigued me, Steve. I would love to see Waller and Knight and maybe somebody else in a stable where they're just like these like playboys type of thing, right? The LA
Mm,
connection and that stuff. Like maybe I feel like Miz is kind of past the point of that. Ziggler would have been good back in the day with these two
mm.
on his side. maybe even like a Carmelo and Trick or something. Imagine that foursome.
Yeah.
Carmelo, Trick, Grayson, and LA Knight. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's a night out in Vegas waiting, isn't it? Let's be
Yeah,
fair.
it is. Yeah.
You could make a movie out of that. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
they've done it already. But yeah,
I think they have, yeah.
imagine Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed as a tag team. That would be quite a destructive team. I wouldn't lie to you about that. I personally prefer them as singles, but yeah, that would kick some butt.
That would. Yes. Yeah, it'd be pretty
Absolutely.
nasty.
It could do pretty nasty pretty quickly. Jonesy says, should they book Bobby Lashley versus Solo Sikoa for a match? Both need a match at WrestleMania.
I oof, I would be down for that. That'd be a nice little hoss fight.
It would be awesome match. I mean, it's too late to really do the revenge for Umaga back in the day, Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania
Mhm.
23. But I mean, it's a
That's
match
right.
we need to see. They need to see that match now. I see it, Jonesy. It looks like a good one. I like it.
Bring Vince back to shave his head again.
Now we want him back on TV, don't
Yeah,
we?
exactly.
Oh, how mean us we are as a fan base, aren't we? C Nation says Bobby Lashley versus Bray Wyatt is not showing up on Wikipedia for the WrestleMania 39 card. Yeah, it's not been made official. It was never
No.
made official. It was just the direction, which means now more than likely it probably isn't going to happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
We got Vegeta Lover 92 says Bronson is a big man and I think he should get a huge push. He's a big man and I think that he does deserve a huge push, but at the moment I think he just needs something just to tweak a little bit more, just to put things together so he can have a buzz rather than just like forcing that push down our throats. I reckon if you can get something that connect, we mentioned like Heyman being connected, the manager is a good way to do it. A bodyguard for someone like a Diesel Shawn situation would be good as well. That sort of thing for Bronson, I think, could really help get him to another level.
Yeah. How about you have him be the bodyguard for Grayson Waller? There you go. That's a
There
that's
you
a
go.
that's a good
Aussie
mix.
connection.
Or yes, there you go. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Although I gotta mention here, he actually wrote he should get a hug push. So maybe he wants him paired up with Bayley.
Ah, there you go. There we go. Or could we bring Brian Danielson back? Because Daniel Bryan loved the hug back in the day.
Yes, exactly. What was the doctor's name? The
Dr. Shelby.
Dr. Shelby. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Good times. Good times. Team Hell No. We won't have Kane back for a hug, though, I'm pretty sure, but still.
No.
C Nation says Randy Orton just needs to win the Universal title, then he's won every current Grand Slam title because he's been WWE, IC, US, Raw Tag Team, and SmackDown Tag Team Champion. Randy Orton truly has done it all in the game, hasn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's awesome. Randy's gonna go down as one of the best ever.
He truly, truly is. West Coast Podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. We said to have our dose of SCW on YouTube. Thank you so much. Love from the WCP. If Carmelo is called up, who's his debut opponent and does he come up with Trick? I hope with Trick. Debut opponent. I mean, couldn't we do Ricochet again? That was a great match last time.
That would be, yeah. Or do you just toss him right away into the main event picture? Hey, you talked about first opponents for Cody? Maybe you just bring him up and just have him throw him in the mix, and who knows? Yeah,
Hey, it worked quite well. Like, I mean, obviously KO didn't go for the world title, but when he went straight for John Cena, that was still the face
mhm,
that ran the place at the time. KO
yeah,
was a big
mhm,
deal, got off bigger because of that. I mean, Carmelo versus Cody would be a fun match to see. It would
yeah,
suit a B pay-per-view at this stage, not an A
yeah,
pay-per-view. So I can see the argument with that. Definitely comes up with Trick for me. I like the
yeah.
pairing. I like the comparison of them two together. I just worry for Trick if they broke up at this point. Jones says money is no objective. WWE should bring back Sasha Banks to attack Rhea Ripley at the end of Mania 91. No expense spared. Just saying this Marnado has that championship somewhere else and she signed an extension. It sadly couldn't happen, but I do think she'll be back one day. I really do think she'll come back for one more run at some point. She's betting on herself right now. She said she got personal messages from William Regal and Triple H. Surely the door can't be completely closed.
Yeah, I think I'm in the big minority here, but I've never really been on the big hype train for Sasha. I'm sorry. I feel like there's too much complaining on the side. There's too much boo boo face. You know when she's going to lose a match or lose a title. You can certainly tell when she's coming out when it's happening. I think her best work was that whole feud with Bayley down NXT, which was fantastic. The
Yeah.
matches they had were just great, but I just think I feel like she's gotten a little bit into her press clippings and into the social media hype and kind of forgot about what she was doing it for. And as I say, you have this whole as soon as she was coming out for a loss, you knew it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you could see it on the facials. I will say that. I would agree with that 100% there. And hey, whether she's a big deal that comes back one day or not, so we'll have to wait and see what happened in the
Mhm.
future. Celestia says, do you think Josh Alexander and Mickey James injuries are a work? With that both top champions are injured at the same time. Unfortunately, I think it's just bad luck.
Yeah, I definitely think Josh Alexander's real. I don't know what's going on with Mickey. Do you think that's a legit injury? I'm not even sure what's happening there.
It's hard to know actually because she's still going to be at Sacrifice tonight.
Right.
She's going to address the championship situation. So I mean, hopefully she hasn't got to relinquish it either. I hope it's not as bad of an injury that she could just delay things to rebellion. That's what I'd like to see happen. But it's hard to know what's going to happen at this point with this one.
It really hurts if both your champions have to relinquish a title. That's tough. Has that
Absolutely.
ever happened before in the history of wrestling? Both your women's world champion and your men's world champion to relinquish at the same time?
I don't remember it, so I think it would be a first. I mean, it's so unfortunate, especially for politely a company like Impact that's still, it's not got the same star power. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
it
know.
is a shame. Like, if it weren't for WWE, we go, oh, this is bad, but look, we have this, we have this, we have this. Now that it's like Macklin versus Kushida. Look, I'm going to be polite about it. The match will be good, but there's no way Kushida's winning it. I'm sorry, it's just that's not happening.
So, Steve, let me run this by you. Would you? Because yeah, when they put Kushida in, I was like, that's kind of weird. I not really feeling down for that. I'd almost rather have just crown Macklin and then have
Mm,
somebody come out and challenge them. Like say like a Moose or somebody like that come out or whatever,
yeah.
some veteran. But would you, in this situation, make a run for your fellow countryman, Mr. Nick Aldis, with his history and his
Oh.
pedigree to come in and face Macklin and him take the title and put that title on him?
Well, he has a contact that could get him back into Impact Wrestling, doesn't he? In
Oh
one Mickey
man,
James. So, I mean, I would be fully. I mean, that would actually bring quite a few eyes to the Impact
it
product. It would
would.
be a very good idea if they could do that right now because all this isn't anywhere else, and certainly he had a great run in NWA. So why not? I'd be down for that.
He would legitimize it, to be quite honest. I mean,
Mm.
when I look at world champions, when Nick Aldis was holding that NWA title, he looked like a champion. He acted like a champion, and having him there holding that title and you wait for Alexander come back. I don't know. I would love to see them make a play because I'm rooting for Impact. They put on some great stuff and they managed to survive. And I think they're going in the right direction right now. And
Wow.
I just horrible timing for this. I really do hope that the whole Mickey thing is not a true injury and they decide to pivot away from that because that would be horrible if that happened.
I totally agree with you. If we can support Sacrifice tonight and give the show a go, definitely will be worth your time. I'm sure of it. There's some great matches lined up for that show still, regardless. We got WrestleMania 10 and 20 being underrated. I can see that, especially with 10. I mean, that's a definite. And 20 is underrated, but is forgotten, if you will, at this stage of the game. But yeah, you can understand why. And heel Drew needs to be a thing. Feels like the most popular one of all the heel turns from Jones's question at the start of the stream there. Drew McIntyre should turn heel, it feels, with the majority. KO and Sami and the Usos have been carrying the shows on for Raw and SmackDown. They should be the main event of WrestleMania Night 1. It seems to be a fair argument, that one there
Yeah.
at this point. I'm going to try and race through the comments now, guys, because
Yeah.
in 10 minutes we will be wrapping things up here because SmackDown starts. Batman 9101 says, do we see Bianca versus Charlotte at WrestleMania 40? I hope so. It needs to happen.
Yep. Yeah, I'd be down for that.
Absolutely, and it would be good for the rest of the year. Rhea also being champion. Big fan of Ilya Dragunov as well. We've got here Eric Douglas says he became the biggest star in the company. I know you're trolling. I don't know who you're referring to, Eric, on that one. You have to actually let me know. We've gone too far back now to know what that one is, unfortunately. We need Asuka versus Io Sky for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania 40. Would be down for that as well.
Yeah.
It would be good. They teased it, didn't it, with the back and forward. That was quite a lot
Yeah.
of fun at the time.
That was fun. I really enjoy. I love the idea of doing the subtitles for that stuff. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was a different level. I really enjoyed that. Sinesha says if Mickey vacates the Impact Knockouts Championship, then Impact will be in a lot of trouble. Like we say, they'd have to give it to Jordan Grace. At least they've got ready-made people. It's just the next
Yeah.
challengers to go for it. Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre, Money in the Bank. Goodness me, that's a match that would definitely be worthy of that show.
Yeah. Could definitely see that. And as far as Impact, you can just toss it on Deanna Purrazzo and you're fine.
That's also true. Oh god, I need another Deanna Prazo and Jordan Grace match. That'd be awesome. They already did the Josh Alexander redemption story when he lost the title to Moose and then won it back. I mean, it worked well that time. Do it again.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's a legit reason to have this redemption because it's not even redemption. It's just he didn't lose his title. Like he had
Mm.
it taken away. So there you go.
Absolutely. And Macklin won't get the rub now. He certainly doesn't seem to be at this particular moment. Alex says, I would love to see Ricky Starks and Kosuke Takeshita versus Juice Robinson and Jay White on Dynamite before Forbidden Door, or that last week before Forbidden Door. You may get your wish at some point. They'll definitely be teasing it closer towards the time. We've also got more talk here about Steve Macklin will beat Takeshita for the world title. Yeah, I mean, Kushida was supposed to get the shot at Multiverse United, and that's why I think he's been put in that position there. C Nation saying that Bound for Glory could be a good return for Josh Alexander and Steve Macklin. I totally agree if that could be the case. If you ask me, Miro fit perfectly in Impact Wrestling. Imagine the dream match him against Joe Hendry. Say his name when he appears.
Miro
Imagine.
Miro fit good anywheres. Back in WWE would be pretty nice too.
It would be pretty nice as well. They wouldn't mind seeing that. But imagine if you really did say his name when he appeared. Joe Hendry just appearing on every podcast. He probably wouldn't get any sleep, would he? Bless him. Braun Breaker's first feud should be Austin Theory or Bobby Lashley or Finn Balor. Who should Breaker's first feud be?
Hmm. Depends. Again, it depends on if he's heel or face. I wouldn't have him against Finn. I think Lashley would be an interesting one for sure. That would be an interesting one. Again, I want to keep him away from Austin Theory because really neither of them needs to lose right now. I guess would be the thing.
That's very true. I mean, obviously, maybe you build Breaker up to that point, maybe like a
Yeah.
Goldberg streak, not
Yep.
not a Ryback one, but a Goldberg one. Could be quite handy. Quickly, just yes or no? Do you want to see Goldberg in AEW to finish his career off?
No, no, I don't. I don't want to see Goldberg on my TV again. To be honest with you, and again, why would they do that? That's just playing into the hole. You're picking up the scraps from WWE.
True story. Make a very good point with that there. Great idea to put him. I think it was Bronson Reed with Grayson Waller. We've got a lot of fan here for Austin Theory and Braun Breaker would be a show stealer. I think that's why you need to build for it. That's why you got to
It
build that
would
one.
be, yeah.
Ghost Spider wants Bayley to turn face after Damage Control split up. I think that will happen. I'm going to go and predict that will also be after WrestleMania if they lose at WrestleMania because they've lost every other meaningful place so far.
Yep.
Alex as well. That says Grayson Waller versus Dolph versus Mustafa versus Chad Gable Monday Night Raw seems pretty interesting. Wild card match one after Mania. Would love to see it. Would love to see it. And also, we've got last comment from Ghost Spider. Think Seth Rollins or Randy Orton or Gunther should be the next Universal Champion. That's a really good shout there for us there. And also, I'm just going to run through some of these now because SmackDown is literally starting in a minute. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton feud would work for Extreme Rules. If we have an Extreme Rules this year, do we need? I'm going to ask you that. Do we need Orton versus Wyatt again?
No.
I think simply no.
Yeah.
Is there BC? I might sound crazy, but I think Liv Morgan would be a great with Fitz getting drafted to NXT. Make it secretively.
Yeah, they definitely they need to kind of pull Liv away from the picture. That I think that whole situation with the title and all that stuff just did not go well. So revamp. It's time to revamp.
Time to revamp. Last three comments, and we're wrapping things up. Jenny's back for us once again, going, BC, where are you? Where does Nikki Cross figure in WrestleMania, or does she at all? Nikki fan here.
Jen is a big Nikki fan. She really enjoys her. Unfortunately, I don't think Nikki's gonna be involved with WrestleMania because they're not doing the Battle Royal this year. I don't believe, are they?
No, there's still spaces for that showcase tag team match if she's
Yeah,
going to be anywhere, but I think that's the best likely situation at this point.
yeah.
Sorry about that, Jen. We'd like to hope she could get in there for you, but Shahid says, don't think Oscar. I don't think Oscar. She's not perfect fit solution for Raw Women's Championship. It should be Raquel Rodriguez. Certainly would be a good fit, perhaps after WrestleMania. I think Raquel could be a good shout for the women's the Queen of the Ring, should I say, or perhaps Money in the Bank this year.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm not feeling. There's something missing with Raquel right now, and I don't know what it is. Definitely, the whole smiley face Raquel thing did not help her at all. Yeah, I feel like she needs to. Yeah, you're right. That Queen of the Ring thing might help her to get some momentum going.
I think so indeed. I think that would definitely help and definitely stop smiling, become a heel.
Yeah.
We've got Vegeta Lover 92. I want Braun versus Seth. It would be awesome. That would actually be a really, really good match. Again, give it some build, please. But that's all the comments. Thank you, everyone, so much. This has been the WrestleMania Q&A. It's been a lot of fun doing this. Thank you, everyone that's enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button. Share it with a friend as well. Let them know SCW is here. Subscribe to the channel as well. I am going to put at the end of this video, BC Hunters, all of his links in the top comment of the YouTube feed. So you can go there and subscribe to his channel because honestly, it's fantastic content. You've been all with us here now with BC for the last nearly 2 hours. BC, I want to say a big thank you to you for taking the time to be on this. It's been a lot of fun to collab with you and I hope we can do it again in the future. But before we do leave, can you tell everybody about your fantastic content?
Yeah, well, again, thank you very much for inviting me on, Steve. I really appreciate that. I know we've been trying to hook up at some point, and this has been a lot of fun. Your folks, your subscribers are fantastic. Those are some really good questions. I got to say, some really well thought out things. So that was really fun. As far as the audio podcast, you can find us on any podcasting app that you want. It's called Wrestling with the War. We're still wrestling with the truth, but we're focusing on the Monday Night War. So we've called it Wrestling with the War. So find it there. On YouTube, it's Wrestling with the Truth. We just hit our 200 subscribers, so we're looking to continue to grow with that. So head on over there. And breaking news alert: I have decided to launch another YouTube channel because I'm just not busy enough with wrestling. But going to my old school love, and keep with the wrestling with the theme, I've launched a new channel just 2 days ago called Wrestling with the 80s, and I'm focusing completely on the 80s. I wanted to wait before announcing it because I want to have a little bit of content up there. So there's a couple of videos, a couple of shorts up there right now. We're starting to get subscribers already. I'm really surprised at how quick this is happening. But if people want to go over there, if you're a fan of old school wrestling, feel free to come over, subscribe. We certainly would love to have you on board and send us some ideas of some things that you'd like to see covered because we're just going to have a lot of fun with this. But it's kind of going to be my passion project as far as old school wrestling. I just love watching that stuff. It's my jam, man, as Bret Hart would say.
Absolutely. I can't wait to subscribe to that. That's the first thing I'll do when I come off is subscribing to that channel. And yeah, like I say, some fantastic content always with BC and the gang. You've got to go and check out the stuff there. It's well worth your time. But I want to say a big thank you to coming on. Last question can be a yes or no, if you will. Will Trish turn heel and join Bayley? It's Shahid's final question for us.
I would like to see that because it would finally get some intrigue into that match. Because right now it feels like it's a blowout with the face team against Damage Control. I mean, unless that's just their way to break that team up. But at least if you had Trish turn and she teamed with Bayley, that would make it interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. I personally don't think it will happen, but maybe it might. I mean, there's been seen some rumors on it, and of course, it only seems fitting to finish on a Canadian question today. But
Yeah, that's true. Nice.
just shame we didn't get a Bret Hart question. I was hoping for a Bret Hart question, but there's always next time. But BC, I hope we get to do this again in the future. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been so much fun. Thank you to everyone that's been watching, and for anyone that's watched this on delay, God bless you. And we appreciate you coming and watching a 2-hour live stream on delay as well. It really does mean a lot. But enjoy the rest of your day. If you're watching us live now, enjoy SmackDown. Enjoy WrestleMania. And just to let you know, the predictions will be on this channel next week live, 8:30 p.m. UK time. I've got 3 guests joining me. Josie Chats Wrestling, NXT Steve, and Tom Colicue will be on there. NXT Standard predictions will be also coming live to you next week as well. But that's all from us anyway. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have yourselves a good one.